of things, and what you just shared with us from his counterpart, Coach Hodge, about that emotional agility part. You got to take us a little deeper into that at some point. His quarterback under duress right away as Trey Burke is going to be sacked, and the Byrnes defense has its tone-setting moment to begin things. Going to be key for Byrnes tonight as they try to take on a Spartanburg team fresh off of a couple of wins, trying to get the train moving right now, to have these type moments early, and that's the start they hope for. Tom.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Byrnes coming off one of the best performances in Coach Hodge's 5 years last week at a 27-0 lead early.
Absolutely. Talking about Spartanburg there, of course, and the Vikings did to win a second straight, looking to make it a third here. And after Hopkins has his moment defensively to begin things, Spartanburg hands it to Trenton Lynch, and he's getting back to form for the Vikings. Solid start. He will be the biggest help Trey Burke will have tonight out of that backfield.
Yeah, Burke getting an opportunity, 4 starts last year and again this year. And you look at his supporting cast there. Lynch, we talked about, 83-yard run for a touchdown last week. Zeke, Bell, Boyd, Calvin Choice, good out on the edge, and offensive line anchored by center John Hammond.
Tremendous playmakers on the offensive side of the ball as you look at the Bojangles starting lineup for Spartanburg. Move the chains. First down, Vikings, as they keep it on the ground. Coach Hodge saying he believed he could get the ground game going, but he believes what happens out on the perimeter. And this offense's ability to begin to start rolling, Tom, the X factor for his team. You know what the defense for Spartanburg has been able to do. You know they pride themselves on effectiveness in special teams. But it's this offense that Byrnes is trying to slow that will be the key tonight. And there's a look at the defensive alignment for Byrnes. Already saw Hopkins. We'll get into some of the rest momentarily. This is a little pass dumped out across the 45. Byrnes making a stop, but not before Spartanburg is up near midfield. Give us a snapshot of the Byrnes D.
I tell you, they've been tough. 27 points last 4 games up front. That defensive end, Jaden Ferguson. You went to the middle, Jonathan Montgomery, and then Vontae Young in the secondary.
Got their hands full right now. As cutting back is Lynch, and he cuts back all the way to the far side of the field. Trenton Lynch loose inside the red zone, and he's finally drug out of bounds at the 10-yard line. Well, who knew those words would indicate what was to come on this drive? Trenton Lynch has been the biggest help Trey Burke and company could have asked for, and he is the catalyst to work Spartanburg down to the doorstep on the Vikings opening drive.
Yeah, 5'9", 183, sophomore, just an outstanding player, young guy coming off 17 for 128 and a touchdown of 83 last week against Bowling Springs.
61st meeting all time. That first meeting all the way back in 1959, a scoreless tie, interestingly enough. One of 2 ties in the history of this rivalry. Spartanburg trying to make sure there's no scoreless moment tonight between these two teams. And, you know, all indications would be, Tom, that this will be a game marked by a number of points on both sides.
Well, you think so. I mean, Coach Hodge telling us that he feels like this is a team that he has that can score anytime, anywhere. And he can get it out on the edge. He thinks this evening that should be an advantage there, but he also wants to throw the ball over the field deep.
Second down from just inside the 10-yard line for Spartanburg. There's a first down available inside the 1. And the Vikings keep it on the ground as Burke hands off to the back this time around. Spartanburg going to hand it off and get Chris Sutton involved, one of the senior running backs. Had a chance to eyeball a number of these players up close and personal on the field a little bit earlier. Sutton, one of those guys you could tell really locked in.
Yeah, I tell you what, he's another guy that's been around a little bit. He's the senior. You mentioned 5'8", 156, and even though 156, he's pretty tough right up between the tackles.
Again, you mentioned it, senior leadership. That's one of the storylines for this Vikings team on both sides of the ball. Little fake underneath and a wide open look in the back of the end zone for a Spartanburg touchdown. Justin Rice. Well, when we were walking around eyeballing some of these players earlier, 1-4 is certainly among those who immediately catches your attention. He has the first moment for Spartanburg, a touchdown toss from Burke to Rice, and the Vikings are on the board.
6 feet, 188 senior, and he's a young man that they really think highly of. And, you know, after that big loss on first down, able to run it and get the touchdown through the air.
Extra point coming. This is Spartanburg team prides itself on special teams. Will Love, he's got a brother kicking at Virginia Tech. He's still doing good work here at Spartan High. Makes the extra point true. There will be no scoreless tie on this night. Spartanburg on the board, capping off the first drive with a TD. Well, plenty for Spartanburg fans to cheer about already as we give you a glance at our Stewart Law Office's fans of the game. Our fans of the game tonight. You will see fans from both sides throughout the night tonight. And they're brought to you by Stewart Law Offices, proud sponsors of our fans of the game. Well, Tom, one touch of the football for the Spartanburg Vikings. Mark Hodges' team drives down. They use Trenton Lynch on the ground, cap it with a toss to Justin Rice in the 7-yard touchdown connection between he and the quarterback Burke, giving Spartanburg a 7-0 lead.
I tell you, very impressive. He likes his offensive line, and even after the big loss on the first down, they turn around and hand it off, and you can just see the athletic ability and the open field ability as well from Trenton Lynch. And again, just another young sophomore, and they will set that in there, and then be the ability to run the football. You think they're going to run it down there, maybe throw it in for a touchdown. Well balanced.
7-0 Vikings as they kick it away. It's going to be into the end zone. Boy, what a luxury to have a kicker that can put it back there time and time again. Always a love, right, in that spot for the Spartanburg Vikings, and plenty of love for the way he goes about his business. Here come the Byrnes Rebels for the first time. Last time these two teams met, September 29th, a year ago, 21-9 Rebels. Talked about that very first meeting in '59. It went no one's direction. Most recently, Byrnes' direction. Though the story of this rivalry really is two teams, and the coaches said it as well, trying to return to the type of prominence they both once enjoyed at the top of the class in South Carolina football. Well, quarterback options abound for Byrnes. It's going to be Zy Landrum who gets the start to begin things for the Rebels. Landrum, the junior, getting the nod, and on the first play from scrimmage, he'll hand it off, and Spartanburg was waiting as that defensive front for the Vikings is there. Well, tell us a little bit about the surrounding cast for the starter, Zy Landrum.
Well, you got a couple of guys in the backfield, Jacoby Fuller and also Talik Dawkins, who can run and receive, a leading receiver, in fact. And then the right tackle up front, Justice Meredith. Been a lot of movement trying to get that set up, and he's going to move over and play center the last couple of balls.
They got another talented freshman in Trey Segarra, who we may see tonight. That name may sound familiar. He's an up-and-comer and has been cleared to play. We'll see if he ends up being a contributor in this one for the Byrnes Rebels. This a night, not only as we talk about bragging rights in the county being on the line and a return to glory being on the line, a night where you're going to be able to potentially put yourself in the conversation for a region title. Spartanburg's defense, one of the reasons that's true for the Vikings.
They've been good, 26 points the last 4 games up front. Defensive end, Corey Cheeks. 3 of the top 4 tacklers are linebackers, and into the secondary, the strong safety, Quincy Haywood, the second leading tackler.
And the defense for Spartanburg, the strength of this Vikings team on so many levels. And Tom, you look across this defense, you see so many seniors. This is an experienced group.
Yeah, all 11 of them are seniors. This is the group that came in. This is Coach Hodges' fifth year, so they've been with him the whole time. It is a veteran team, particularly on the defensive side, and we'll mention those 4 linebackers. We'll get into them throughout the course of the broadcast.
Yeah, this is that group that made a run through the JV ranks. You'll remember the way they were beating teams in that era of their careers. Now they find themselves headlining the varsity unit, and they come away with an initial stop, and no return on the punt means the Vikings will take over at their own 41-yard line after a solid kick. Spartanburg, a textbook drive on their first touch of the football tonight, and now back at it. What did you see from Trey Burke on that opening drive? Because Trey Burke, Mark Hodge says, beginning to come into his own, is the difference maker for Spartanburg. If he plays up to his capability with that defense and those special teams you've already seen on display, turns this Vikings team into a deep playoff team, potentially, with all the pieces in place. Give me your thoughts on Trey Burke so far.
Well, we talked last year, he played down the stretch because of an injury, and he's playing again this year at the beginning because of an injury. 6'2", 186 junior. Not going to run the ball much, like minus 53, that's it. But he can throw the football, and he can spread it around a little bit. He now 9 touchdowns and over 900 yard passing this year.
Stepping back here, has already thrown 1 touchdown pass in this one, but will have no open receivers. Decides to lunge forward with it to about the 44-yard line, made something out of nothing. and third down around 6 on the horizon.
The one thing you got to do, you got to be able to play. You need to get under the lights, and I think as he gets better and better, and as you see it, you see some of the shots on the screen there. He's a big guy, 6'2", 186. So even though he got just a couple of yards there, he's able to hit maybe 1 or 2 just with the sprint going forward.
Going to call it third down and 6. Spartanburg needs to venture onto the Byrnes side at the 49 to move the chains. This may help do so. Nice cut move that will complete it for Joshua Hodge. Hodge works his way into Byrnes territory. Well, you watch last names in this rivalry, right? When you talk about the different individuals who carry the history of these programs and certainly the different chapters that come along. There's one. If you look at this Spartanburg uniform, you think of the likes of Steve Fuller, Anthony Simmons, Steve Davis back in the day. Who's going to make their mark tonight? Well, defensively, the mark going to be made by a Byrnes member of the secondary, taking it back inside the 40, still up and moving, and all the way home for Emerson James, a freshman who puts Byrnes on the board defensively first. Emerson James stepping in with the INT. He adds his name to the laundry list of heroes on both sides in this rivalry.
I mean, had what they wanted. It was just overthrown and right there. And then once he gets it, he knows what to do with it. And he set it up pretty well. Burke had a chance there, but ran by him, and then he knew what to do and took the distance touchdown.
His blockers doing their job without doing too much, and a defensive touchdown for Byrnes opposite the offensive drive for Spartanburg has us knotted up at 7 apiece. Now into it in the first period in Spartanburg County. Well, don't let game night dinner get you stressed. Stop by Ingles. They have great choices at the Ingles Deli. Rotisserie chicken, fresh made salads, a delicious hot bar and sub bar. It's dinner and a snap, then off to the game. Ingles, low prices, love the savings. Well, you love what you're seeing from these two so far. Something to cheer about for the Rebels. Byrnes with a defensive contribution. 80 yards later on the pick six for Emerson James.
Yeah, I mean, his freshman didn't go back to that, about 80 yards. It had what they wanted. Coach Hodge said they wanted to throw the ball. They thought they could have success over the middle, but it was overthrown. And James, whose ability as that one of the strong safeties back there, we saw his versatility, able to take the distance. That's huge because Spartanburg had gotten what they wanted with a long drive for a touchdown and had gotten off the field very quickly for Byrnes. That was a huge play in the ball game.
Yeah, they had designs on trying to march down, go up 14-0. Instead, an even 7 split between these two, and Trey Burke, the X Factor, becoming one of the storylines tonight. Great first drive and difficult finish to that one, and you tip your cap to the freshman Emerson James. As here's the kick from Byrnes after a defensive score. Return man at the 19, going to have it out across the 30. Big seam up to the 39-yard line on the return for Spartanburg's Calvin Choice, senior. Seems like we say that every time at Doc Davis Field tonight. Senior after senior after senior. And these seniors know a little bit about this rivalry, right? You know, you've got the Dorman-Spartanburg rivalry. We've had that on our air. You've got the Gaffney-Spartanburg rivalry, which goes way back. Different element to those rivalries. This is maybe the newer of the rivalries, just dating back to, as we said, the late 50s. And it really has been the last 30 years or so, the last 3 decades, that this rivalry has at times been for supremacy in South Carolina time. It has a different feel, but it comes with tremendous bragging rights.
I mean, it's really interesting, the 3 matchups you just described there and the differences between those 3. And you did it the outset talking about what Bobby Bentley was able to do at Byrnes in the championship that he won. Chris Miller followed him. Chris Miller comes here, wins the last championship for Division II back in 2014. Doc Davis, he had that great run in the 90s. Really good, interesting background and history with these 2 teams.
Yeah, 91, 94, 95, 96, all titles in the 90s for Spartan High. These teams met 3 times in the postseason in 2008, 2009, 2012. Byrnes getting the better of those meetings, 34-0, 51-16, 54-13. But you look at it overall, it's a Spartanburg lead in the series. And Spartanburg looking to take the lead back here tonight as the catch is made by Rice up across the 50 at the 49-yard line. You know, we'll get into it a little deeper as the night goes on, as you get one more look at the footwork by Rice to keep himself in bounds and move the chains with a first down. But Tom, what Spartanburg was in the 90s and what Byrnes was in the early 2000s, the standard in South Carolina football.
I mean, absolutely incredible. You talked about Doc Davis back in the mid-90s. They won 37 consecutive one-point. Byrnes in mid-2000s won 33 consecutive games, and the state championships abound both ways. I mean, Byrnes won 8 state championships in 10 years. I get a little bit different, 4A Division I, 4A Division II. Nonetheless, state championships and banners hanging high.
A winning history for these 2 programs, certainly in recent history for them both for sure. Looked like that line was going to be able to get back, but you see the body language from Caerafo as he wasn't able to quite work his way back there. It's going to be an offsides call, and that will move the chains again for Spartanburg inside the Byrnes 40. Go the Vikings. Here was the difficulty on that line of holding up.
I mean, good job for the O-line of Spartanburg to stay stationary and just jumped a little bit early there and anticipated the count.
Told you Spartanburg leads the series. We're paying that off. 32 wins, 26 losses, a couple of ties in the history between these 2 teams, just to set the stage further for you. Here's the first down play. Man open, far side, in and out of the hands of the intended target, Zeke Bell Boyd, who you will likely hear from further before the night is done. Boy, this was drawn up well, Tom. They just couldn't quite execute it.
Yeah, had him right there. He overthrown the last time of this one. That's a catchable one. He'd like to have that one back. But you mentioned him and the Calvin Choice, and then also Zeke Bell Boyd and Isaiah Williams-Bonds, another one. Not going to anticipate him playing tonight.
And that's a difference maker, too, when you're still missing some of those key contributors like that. Whistles before this play gets rolling. See what our officials have to say. Looks like it's going to be a reset of the play clock before things get underway on second down. Talk about the closeness of this rivalry too, Tom. Average points scored, Byrnes 20, Spartanburg 18.6. That's pretty close.
Yes, it
when
is.
these 2 teams get together. It always makes for an entertaining matchup, and tonight so many region implications for these 2 teams in the powerful Region 2. We'll toss to Trenton Lynch. Lynch, remember, did most of the heavy lifting on the earlier drive, and he's going to take it home on this scoring drive. Trenton Lynch looked to have his progress stalled, and that's where he found another gear and ultimately found the end zone. Spartanburg back on top.
I'll tell you what, we saw him earlier in this contest take one for about 50. This time he watched him set it up, and the blocking out on the edge knocked a hold there, and the broken tackle from James, and spins away. Just tough to bring down.
Well, he did a little more than spin away. He said, I don't think so. Trenton Lynch had one thing on his mind. Completes the touchdown run with force. Second look at that, revealing just how determined he was to find pay dirt. Extra point, true as usual, and it's 14-7 Spartan high. Well, feels like Valhalla for the Vikings thus far. A couple of key drives offensively as they have the early lead. The Spartanburg offense, a couple on the board. The Byrnes defense, a score on the board with 4:20 to play in the opening period. We didn't think scoring was going to be a premium tonight, and every indication that these two teams came ready to put some points on the board in this one, Tom.
I'll tell you, Spartanburg's a team that they come in, they average 29.8, but they win 27-7 over Boiling Springs, and did it both ways there. But they've been able to put some points on the board. 47 against Broome, 49 against Eastside. They beat South Point earlier, 26-25 in game one, and then ran into a really good Dutch Fork team. Dutch Fork able to win it here 24-7, the number one team in 5A, and having won 7 out of the last 8.
All right, we had that conversation about Spartanburg being the standard in the 90s and Byrnes being the standard in the early 2000s. No question who the standard has been since the state added a 5A classification. That Dutch Fork team still a force to be reckoned with out of the Midlands once again. Spartanburg saw that team. You said it already, and a little bit of history having been made between them here in 2024. Will there be more between one or the other of these teams before all is said and done? Well, roughly 40 on the run for Trenton Lynch. How about that rush for the Spartanburg back? That was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, he's a good one, and we talked about his abilities coming in. 81 carries, 662 yards. A year ago, he is a freshman. We've talked about the young sophomore Jacoby Fuller and some other ones, and Segura not playing tonight. Some young guys from these teams, but well, I tell you, he's only a sophomore, good-looking ball player.
If we see Segura at some point, that would be a story, because again, the potential very much there for him as a young athlete. You saw Coach Reggie Shaw there with his team just a few moments ago, and they have heard the bell, have answered it with a defensive score thus far. Now his offense goes to work, and it's going to be carried near side. Speaking of athletes, very athletic, Zy Landrum. You know, Landrum more of a wide receiver running back when you look at him on the depth chart, right, Tom? But you want the football in your playmaker's hands, and you're probably going to see a lot of this as long as he remains at the quarterback position tonight.
Yeah, that's a good tackle out on the edge. Hard to bring him down, and you know, he's a very good receiver as well, but they like what he can bring to the table as a quarterback as well, a dual threat guy.
Kane Rogers handling some of those responsibilities, and maybe you came away with some inside information when you were talking with Reggie Shaw. He said you may see more than a couple quarterbacks tonight. Was that not what he shared with you?
He said maybe a little bit of a surprise. We may see a third one out there some point. So we'll wait and see if that does transpire.
Keep your eyes peeled when it comes to playmakers in this one tonight. Dawkins a part of this package for the Byrnes Rebels. Look at that coaching staff for Byrnes. Shaw, this guy through and through, leading this group to the charge on third down. Well, this well designed, and it is dumped beautifully into the grasp of Jackson Buckley, and the senior has enough to move the chains.
I'll tell you what, that is an outstanding tackle out on the edge, and if he doesn't make it, I mean, then there's an opportunity there for a big play, and coming up with C.J. Woodruff to make that play in the open field.
Keep that play in the back of your mind. More there for the taking, perhaps, in the utilization of Jackson Buckley. It works out to a first down here, but there is nothing allowed by that Spartanburg front on the first down play as they smother up Dawkins. All right, how about this trio, Tom? Cameron Jennings, Cohen Foster, and Cheeks. They are quite a group leading Spartanburg to the charge on that defensive line.
Yeah, up front, and then we've always talked about those 4 linebackers, but a lot of it starts up front, providing the opportunity for those linebackers to make the play. And we mentioned Woodard a moment ago. He came in with 44 tackles, so they're strong on the front 7, and they like the secondary as well.
That's going to be back into Jackson Buckley's hands. And a senior is going to be out at around the 35-yard line. Here comes a third down after this connection.
Yeah, you know, Jason, we were talking about the last 4 games. Spartanburg's defense has given up just the 26 points, gave up 25, 24, and then the last 6, 6, 7, and 7. So they've been, you do that, you get a chance to win them all.
Well, the scissors beginning to collapse on the QB, and he will throw this away over the middle, incomplete. But he was again kind of being pinched from the perimeter by the combo that we just discussed on that Spartanburg defensive line, and that'll force Byrnes to kick it away. You talk about the last few games for Spartanburg. Mark Hodge clear to us in talking with him this week. He said, you know, this is the time that you got to begin to string some games together, and you hope to replicate that again when the postseason comes, because you got to win several in a row to be a championship quality team. And we're in a position now where we can prove on a night like tonight that we can win several in a row. This is a big game for Spartanburg in what they want to do in the long term, proving to themselves they can do that week after week after week. If you hear Mark Hodge talk,
they want to make a run. There's no question about that. They went 6-6 a year ago, and 4 of those games, 7 points or less, 5, 10 points or less. They lost in the first round of J. O'Mann's 17-7. Most of those guys coming back, but yeah, we've won 2. Let's see if we can win 3, because once you get into the playoffs, and if you don't get a first round bye, you got to win 5 games to get the champion.
That's the mindset. This is going to be given right off the right side, but Byrnes' defensive front was waiting this time around, and the Rebels will have none of it. You know, they'll try to replicate that pressure with the likes of Hopkins on one side, Ferguson on the other, Davis, Clark, who's in there for Dixon, Montgomery, and Mills, and they do a nice job to cover up the ball carrier here.
Yeah, we saw Ferguson there, and with the first play of the game, we saw his counterpart on the opposite side, Justice Hopkins, get a big play.
Screen play pops right off the intended target and falls incomplete. Yeah, should mention Dixon not out there tonight. It's a different defense without him, but Tyler Clark, the junior, wearing jersey number 30, called upon sliding into that spot. His play going to be critical tonight.
Yeah, next man up, you got to be able to step in there and get it done. And you know, they like some of their guys in that particular category as well. But you got to remember, this is Byrnes' team 10-2 a year ago. They only had 4 returning starters, a lot of transfers, a lot of guys went other places after that.
That was Jonathan Montgomery, who was directing traffic a moment ago on the heart of your screen. Third down coming for Spartanburg. It's 3rd and 9. Burke looking deep. Adjustment was being made, and the flags are going to come out. This is one of those, did the official feel like in any way Davis was looking at the ball? And it appears as if they're going to flag the junior for not doing so. We'll let him sort this out, but that would seem to indicate a favorable flag for Spartanburg, and the Byrnes reaction tells the story. It is going to be pass interference on Davis in the defense.
Well, first Burke steps up. We'll get a look at it here, and then it's a little bit underthrown, and you got to come back and never turned around. That's probably going to be the key there. Is a little bit underthrown, then trying to come back, and probably each and every time, if you don't look back, you're going to get there.
That was the statement when you saw the flags come out. Going to take it to the 46-yard line of the Byrnes Rebels. 1 minute and change remaining in an entertaining opening period. Spartanburg up a score and looking for more as they work just above that Vikings logo. Take it inside the 45 down to the 43-yard line. Well, as we come toward the end of the first quarter, and we'll remind you throughout the night, because schedules, like everything else, have been jostled around of late in the Carolinas. We're going to be in North Carolina. What an exciting moment. For the first time next week. We will head to Forest City. East Rutherford going to host us. It should be a lot of fun. And then we'll have these Vikings at Gaffney in what should be another key Region 2 showdown the week that follows on November 8th. So the next 2 weeks, we'll be in North Carolina, then back here in South Carolina as Friday Night Rivals rolls on. Again, don't feel like you got to jot it all down. We'll remind you throughout the night, but that's some good news coming down today. This not so good news as you can see, a player a little shaken up here for the Byrnes Rebels, and the training staff going to be utilized. Let's see if we can see what happened, Tom.
Yeah, Calvin Choice, intended receiver there, and then a collision between two. And I think the worst part of that, down on the ground, going to have to look at him just momentarily. I believe it's Anquan Jean, a senior cornerback, off that way.
Well, while they check on the DB, we will break away. Much more to come from Spartan High after this. Well, Tom, great to see up and moving under his own power after being shaken up on that previous play. Anquan Jean, a senior DB, as you detailed, a little slow as he works his way off, but credit the training staff, and they have their hands full, particularly in a year like this. You know, so many of these players have been out of their routine. We were in Region 1 5A last week, a region in which they were playing 4 games in 14 days, which will test your endurance. So the main thing on everybody's mind, among other things, one of the main things, keep all these young men safe as they get back into football shape. We should mention Region 2 voted to do away with one of the weeks. They're going to play the week they lost upon the arrival of the hurricane on the 8th of November. That is the week that will be played. That's when we'll have Spartanburg and Gaffney on our air on November 8th. And then everything has been pushed back 1 full week by the South Carolina High School League playoffs-wise, so that playoffs will start a week later. The state championship will culminate the second weekend in December. That's the way things are being handled from a Region 2 5A standpoint.
And the state left it up to the regions themselves to decide what they wanted to do.
With that extra week.
Byrnes and Dorman ended up playing on that Wednesday. So they're a little bit different there. Their law would come on the 4th of October. So.
Yeah, they actually played before the weather came through. The reason they were not affected by that. First quarter is in the books. It belongs to the Spartanburg Vikings in their traditional rivalry with Byrnes. Well, the Spartanburg Community College halftime report will come up at the end of the second quarter, which is just about to begin. Our halftime report tonight brought to you by Spartanburg Community College. Well, the fine stat folks here at Spartan High walking in with some numbers for us at the end of this first period. And you can see total yards between these two teams, 148 for Spartanburg, and all the work done on the defensive side for a Byrnes team. that has run 9 plays for 15 yards, but has the defensive touchdown. They're looking for another defensive stand here, Tom, in order to make the difference. What else jumps off the stat sheet at you as we start the second quarter?
Just the fact that Spartanburg runs so many more plays than Byrnes, and the big play there was the interception return for a touchdown for Byrnes.
Byrnes getting the defensive stop here, forcing Spartanburg to kick it away, and that's a nice adjustment on the fair catch, as at the 9-yard line they will take over. If you're wondering about some individuals to this point, Trenton Lynch already a 100-yard game with his work in the first quarter on 10 carries, including that touchdown run. He's among the standouts thus far. Justin Rice targeted a couple of times, and he has a touchdown catch. They've been the leaders for Spartanburg. On the Byrnes side, it's that moment, the moment provided by Emerson James, the freshman, returning it 80 yards for a pick 6, and that's the scoring in this one, Tom.
Yeah, Spartanburg figured that they could score some points tonight, even though it's been a Byrnes team that has been really good. Both teams, the last 4 games, have given up 27 to 26 points respectively, so keep them in.
New quarterback for the Byrnes Rebels to start this drive after the first business was handled by Zy Landrum. And the Rebels going to utilize Dawkins, who has it placed in his hands out of the grasp of Kane Rogers. You knew we'd see the junior Kane Rogers at some point, and he will initiate this drive from the shadow of his own goal line.
Yeah, you're going to see the opportunity there, and we talked previously in the open about the opportunity to play 2 different quarterbacks. And Kane is much more of a drop back passer, not going to run much. In fact, minus 37, whereas Landrum gives you that opportunity to get out on the edge and do some things. But good, 93 out of 136, 878 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 INT, 68% completion rate.
Well, and I'll remind you that we looked at the total yards for Byrnes in that first period, and offensively they tallied 15. So talking about 148 yards of offense for Spartanburg, 15 for Byrnes. Granted, you had the defensive touchdown for the Rebels, which has Byrnes right in the thick of things, but you're seeing a new quarterback in an effort to get some of that jump started. This is going to make it difficult, though. A penalty against the Rebels that will back them up inside the 5 as Coach Shaw and his staff looking for something on second down from behind the sticks.
This is a Byrnes Rebels team. I'll tell you, though, you go back and you take a look at their ball game with Gaffney that went 2 overtimes, 15-9. They had opportunities in that game, but unable to get any touchdowns, and came out of their short end against a very good Gaffney team. It's number 3 in 5A this week.
And that's a team still looming out there for Spartanburg. In a couple of weeks, they'd like to set that up as a region title showdown. That's what's on the line for Spartan High. They win this one tonight. They take care of business next week. They set up that game at Gaffney on the 8th as the battle for the region. And even though they'll be on 2 different sides of the playoffs, as we'll talk about tonight in the second half, perhaps if we get a chance to get into it, it would be the region crown on the line if things go Spartanburg's way.
Because of the tiebreakers and would have beaten Gaffney. Now, again, if folks weren't with us and don't know, Spartanburg is in 5A Division 1. Gaffney is in 5A Division 2.
Once the playoffs come, even though they're in the same region right now. Again, something we can get into in depth as we roll deeper into the night. This is going to be a positive game with the new QB. Kane Rogers known for the arm. It's here the wheels that he utilizes up near the 30-yard line.
That guy talking about I can't run.
Rogers heard you.
Nice
decided
stop.
to put it on display. He moved the chains up to the 29.
Yeah, that's a good decision. I mean, he gave himself the opportunity. I mean, slow, that's a very nice play. It wasn't there, and they made a quick decision, and that's a big play to get that first down.
Byrnes still very much in the thick of it. This is a team that, though they boast a record overall of 3 wins, opposite the losses Tom talked about, they're 3-1 in the region. So still very much right there if all goes their way the rest of the way. Having played one more by virtue of that contest they were able to play before the weather arrived a few weeks ago against Dorman. Well, Coach walking right out there with him, Tom. He's up across the 35 to the 37 as he's hanging on every movement of this Byrnes offense. Second down and shortcoming now for Byrnes. They'll take a first down play like that all day long, that coaching staff.
Absolutely. And the other part about that is we have seen Spartanburg's ability to the big play, their ability to score, so it's important to keep it away.
Going to snap this directly to Elijah Clark. Clark, one of the seniors on the Byrnes side of things. And did you say we would potentially see 3 different people take snaps tonight? Well, it turns out number 3 is going to be the 3rd guy in that department. He takes a snap here. Zy Landrum getting the start tonight. Kane Rogers getting a breather after doing the good rushing work here. And another snap directly to Clark, who goes right up the gut across the right side. And Clark at the quarterback position gets very close to the marker.
Well, they need to keep the ball on the ground. If they can successfully use that offensive line, we talked about a lot of the movements that they've had on that offensive line. Justice Meredith at one point up in the center. He moves over the right tackle position, showing his versatility. And
he's more than close. He has a first down. They decide to go ahead and move the chains. It's first down from the 39 for Byrnes. Back in at quarterback, Kane Rogers. Going to keep the spotter busy tonight if we had one on a night like this. Here's Rogers rolling right side, and it's going to be in and out. Well, it's caught. How about that? There's going to be a flag that may bring this back, but that was a phenomenal catch by Jackson Buckley. Just shy of the boundary. The flag may negate it, but it's a thing of beauty nonetheless. Take this in. Well, he did not bring that in, so a second glance indicates he did not quite bring it in, but that looked like he had designs on a one-handed grab. As I mentioned, it was going to be of little consequence anyway because the holding penalty will back up the Rebels. Tom, kind of seems like for Byrnes right now, every time the Rebels start to get something positive going, this has been the result. They're behind the sticks again.
That was almost as you called it there, Jason. He tipped it, looked like he brought it to the body there, almost an outstanding catch. But yeah, it was going to come back anyway. And that's one of those situations when you talk about keys to the game, and it's coach speak. Lots of times turnovers, penalties, and things like that. I don't think Byrnes can get behind the chains that much.
Has his man here, Buckley, on the connection from Rogers, and he's back near the original line of scrimmage. Now, I want you to go back and talk a little bit about that. What was it you talked about? One more look at this connection with Rogers first connecting with Buckley. That's been a true connection for Byrnes tonight. What was that emotional agility or whatever it was you were talking about? Has to do with rolling with the punches on big plays and miscues.
Yeah, Coach Hodge, when you and I visited with him this week, and appreciate time to visit with him, give us some insight into his team. We'll finish that in just a moment.
Yeah, his team right now stepping up from that defensive line position and in there on the QB quickly to snuff out the play is number 93, Cameron Jennings, one of those seniors on the defensive line.
And you get one more look at it here as he comes in and makes the play, but on the emotional agility, if you have a bad play, I mean, they're young guys. Put it behind you. Don't let it bother you. And he talked about working on that. They talk about that. Handle your emotions. Take care of your own business. I mean, it sounds like pretty standard stuff, but you're talking about young guys that are emotional, and particularly these guys know each other and the ramifications of a game like this.
Yeah, the team that handles that best on both sides is going to be one of the keys to this contest tonight. That is for sure.
How about us? We need to handle our emotional.
Boy, when you get here on a night like this and you see these two teams, the familiar uniforms, and so much on the line, everybody's got to handle their emotion on a night like this. A nice crowd on both sides. As we said, beautiful weather, key region matchup, everything you want on Friday Night Rivals, brought to you by Bojangles. Into the kicker, and a flag down at around the 28-yard line. Now it's 4th and a country mile here. Byrnes needed the 49, and the ball was snapped at the 29. So there's going to be a discussion. You see the response and reaction from Coach Shaw. There's going to be a discussion near side with the coaching staff for Spartanburg as well as they get ready to walk this off. And again, so much yardage was needed that this penalty is going to only move it to the 34. And Byrnes will have to kick it again. Always a question of which of those variety of penalties do you get, Tom? Do you get the running? Do you get the roughing? On this case, it forces Byrnes to kick it one more time. This is trouble. Was that touched? Appears to be covered up by Spartanburg either way. And there on the recovery for the Vikings is Christian Davis, the junior DB. We'll break away. Much more to come from Spartanburg County with 6:43 remaining in the half. Bojangles is a proud sponsor of WLOS Friday Night Football. It's not just football season, it's tailgate season. Head to Bojangles. Order your tailgate box today. It's not a tailgate without Bojangles, proud sponsors of WLOS Friday Night Football. It's bow time. Second quarter action, 6:43 to go in the opening half. Between the Spartanburg Vikings, Byrnes Rebels. We talked a lot about the crowd, and it is always a full house, it seems, when these two teams get together. A lot of energy at Doc Davis Field tonight as Byrnes and Spartanburg renew their rivalry. Tom, your impressions of what we've seen so far? A couple of offensive touchdowns for Spartanburg, the lone defensive score for Byrnes. Vikings have the ball back here looking to build on their lead.
Well, Spartanburg has got some big play guys. They want to try to run that ball, particularly inside. That sets some things up on the edge. And you need to get some stops if you're Byrnes. And Byrnes, you need to hold on to the football if you can offensively to keep it away from Spartanburg. But got that one big play to keep themselves in the game. We saw three different guys receive the snap last time.
And we see a receiver across the middle for Spartanburg. That's Joshua Hodge down to the 36-yard line, making the catch for the Vikings.
Again, we talked with Coach Hodge prior to the game. He thought that would be there. He thought the defensive line really very solid, and if he could get in relatively deep over the middle, he thought he could have some success there.
Counting on his offensive line to give Trey Burke time to do that good work. Byrnes smothers up the ball carrier on this occasion as they give it back to Chris Sutton one more time, the senior running back. You know, Tom, look at Burke so far. After one quarter of action, he had completed 4 passes on 8 tries, had the 1 INT, but had thrown for 39, including the 7-yard touchdown pass to Rice a little earlier in the game. That was his first quarter as he goes to work here mid-second. But the Byrnes defensive front, and on this occasion, Ferguson having none of it.
Yeah, Ferguson makes another nice play. He's had a couple of them here tonight. The tackle prior to that was by Tyler Clark, but it was set up because of the penetration by those down defensive linemen. We talked about Coach Hodge thinking that one of the strengths of this team would be that forward ball and linebackers that can fill for Byrnes.
Third down from behind the sticks. Coach Shaw pointing out something. You could see him at the very top of your screen moving to the line of scrimmage on that Byrnes sideline. Connection made as Spartanburg tosses it out to Calvin Choice. And the senior wideout has it up near the 27. Here's another look at it.
Rush 3 that time, stepped up, had time, and able to let that develop. And you've got some guys out of the perimeter that are big play receivers that if they catch it, they can do some things with it as well. But we've seen a couple of toe taps there on the sideline as well tonight with those receivers.
Well, and fourth down with 3:52 to play means decision time for Spartanburg. You know, the leg that is available to the Vikings. They are inside the 30. Spartanburg opting to go for a package with plenty of potential impact here, and the Vikings will actually call timeout and talk it over. 4th and 1 when you return. Plenty to smile about as Byrnes tangles with Spartanburg on this night in Spartanburg County. Nth Degree Orthodontics, sponsors of tonight's Smile Cam. We thank our sponsors at Nth Degree Orthodontics, making those smiles so much better. 3:37 to play in the opening half. A 4th down and 1 coming for Spartanburg. And Tom, they're going to utilize a package of bigs here on 4th down and 1 in an effort to try and move the chains. Byrnes lining up defensively now. And the Vikings running left side, just enough space to break loose and take it all the way in for a touchdown. Spartanburg needed a yard. They ended up with a whole lot more as the senior Cameron Smith carries it home for the touchdown.
Yeah, he's one of the outstanding linebackers. Got a player down, but one more look at it. And that happens sometimes. 4th and 1, you jam it at the line of scrimmage, and if you get past that first wave, that can happen, and it did. And he's a young man they like to utilize in a short down situation, and you can understand why.
A Cam Smith touchdown run on what was a 4th and 1. Turned touchdown scamper. And now the attention on the injured player at around the 27-yard line. As the extra point will have to wait for now. Seems to be an injured Viking being tended to. And we will break away while the training staff does its good work. Hopefully come back with a good report momentarily.
If we miscount my pitch and drop through, we're clicking.
Vikings fans celebrating the most recent touchdown. Spartanburg now up 20-7. Extra point coming to try and make it 21. The injured Viking was right guard number 73, Lamont Bruton. He was able to get up under his own power, which is a good sign. And we find ourselves 3.5 minutes away from the halftime report, which is brought to you by Spartanburg Community College for these Palmetto State games in 2024. Extra point on target with force into that football building here at Spartanburg High School, and the Vikings lead it 21-7. It was 4th and 1, Tom. Vikings turned to Cam Smith with that heavy package, and Smith took care of the rest. 30+ yards on the touchdown rush.
Yeah, 5'10", 180, a senior. He leads the team in tackles with 57, but he's also pretty good on the offensive side as well. When you need a couple yards, able to do that.
It's a defender's dream, isn't it?
Oh, to have that chance to do it. And you know, sometimes you think about jumbo packages and things like that. I thought in that case you got some options there. You want Lynch to do it, some others as well. And you see, once you get past that point of attack there, going to be difficult to catch him. He was able to take it.
Everybody's so focused on that Byrnes side of things. Don't let him get the 1 yard. And once he gets past that initial, you said, point of attack, he finds all kind of wide open real estate, and it's a Cam Smith touchdown scamper. Direct snaps being taken by a number of guys on both sides tonight. One of the features of this rivalry contest. This is going to go deep into the end zone. Hits the A, the very top of it in Spartanburg for a touchback.
I mean, you mentioned it earlier, Jason. I mean, you see Will Love coming on there and talk about his brother, Virginia Tech. I mean, how big is that if you don't even have a chance to return it? Because we've done this for 11 years, and we have seen so many outstanding kickoff returns and players that can make a difference in special teams. You don't even give them a chance.
Got brother at Virginia Tech kicking in the ACC. He's just a junior, Tom. Talk about the special teams impact of this Spartanburg Vikings squad and what they're able to bring to the table in that department. Impressive young man, and what a luxury to have his services for the Spartanburg Vikings. Team chock full of seniors. That was Fuller given the football. And Spartanburg's defense swarming around. Quez Smith was there. Peyton Jones, who's filling up your screen there. So many the talented players. You know, you want to come out on a night like this, just see the Spartanburg D play. You know, Spartanburg defense made so many headlines a season ago. And this group, as you said, now all in their senior seasons, relishing the opportunity to play together one more time, and they have their moment of the night. On cue, the Spartanburg D with its first touchdown. Quincy Haywood takes it right back where it came from to extend the Vikings lead.
His third interception of the year, and second leading tackler coming in. Good size, 6'1", 182 senior. Big play.
Now the Vikings with designs on beginning to pull away. Spartanburg starting to click on all cylinders. We talked offense, you saw them score. We just told you about special teams, and here's a defensive touchdown to go with it, as Quincy Haywood has Spartanburg's defensive touchdown to match the one earlier from Byrnes. Love going to get a chance to boot it again as flags were down prior to the kick. Well, a game that was knotted 7-7. Seeing Spartanburg score what they hope will be, pending the Love extra point, 21 consecutive down the stretch in this first half to begin to pull away. After the offsides penalty, Love does boot it again. He is just as true. And it is a 28-7 lead for Spartanburg. Well, just when we were singing the praises of this experienced Spartanburg D, Quincy Haywood read it all the way.
Yeah, able to step in front there and take it the distance with a touchdown. And if you can play defense like Spartanburg has been able to do so here, particularly the last 4 ball games, you get a chance to beat anybody and make a run. And that's what they want to do. Mark Hodge, you and I did the games when he was at Chapman. 2 championships, 16-19, second in 2017.
And a gentleman by the name of Debo Samuel, one of the headliners on those Chapman teams.
And Coach Hodges, he won 47 the last 4 years.
And he said in our pregame interview, the first take of it tonight, that, you know, 5 years in, he said, didn't know you were going to deal with COVID right when you came over. Right. He said some of that has created a challenge. He said maybe we're 3 full years into where we had hoped to be. The one thing you love about the Spartanburg Vikings, and you come here and you hear him talk passionately about it, it's what he does with these young men off the field that is as important with their program in full. Talked about it in everybody across the Carolinas having dealt with it in recent weeks. He said, you know, we had houses burn of those related to our program. We had trees fall on houses. He said, you know, for a period of time there, it wasn't even about football. It was just about cleaning up and getting everybody back in the fold. And now he feels like for the first time the last couple of weeks, it's returned to being, for his young men at least, in this portion of the state, about the football rhythms again. And he's trying to get them in that playoff type rhythm as they come down the stretch here in the month of October.
One of the big words and keys for a lot of these coaches, routine, because they got knocked out of whack there. Everybody did for a couple of weeks. And
really for the 3rd time in the last 5 or 6 years. Now this one, certainly for our viewing area, far more of a blow from a weather standpoint. But with the shutdowns related to COVID, then there was some adjustments to the schedule a few years ago with weather moving through. And now this, the third time really in the lives of these coaching staffs and in the lives of some of these young men that they're having to roll with the punches and make adjustments. So you're right, Tom, to get back into some semblance of a routine, huge for these student athletes and the coaches alike. And his front putting together a familiar routine. That's Cohen Foster again in there to disrupt, and they have Byrnes way behind the sticks once more.
Yeah, I'll tell you, big guy. He's able to get in there. 5'7", 258. Able to make that play.
You want to say that one more time?
5'7", 258.
You got it.
Tell you what,
coming right at you.
Had great speed coming off there. Looked good.
Absolutely. Tremendous looking athlete. And a formidable front for the Spartanburg Vikings, no matter which three put a hand down for the home team. Trying to step up with some room, and this is going to be loose and into the grasp of the Spartanburg D. Guess who? He had one through the air. He took home for a touchdown a moment ago. This one jumped right up off the turf into Quincy Haywood's grasp, and the Vikings are in business again.
Yeah, stripped from behind. Hopefully we get one more look at it here. And, I mean, the pressure up front, he's got to step up into the pocket, and then it's stripped out of there was Cameron Smith, who was able to make that play, and his buddy picked it up and almost scored again.
You mean the same Cam Smith that had a touchdown run on a 4th and 1 a little bit ago?
That would be true.
Points put up on the board by Smith offensively, points put up by Quincy Haywood earlier, and he carries Spartanburg to the doorstep here now. Down and being tended to, and the last thing you want to see is this. If you're Spartanburg after a performance such as what he's put together in recent moments. We'll break away, come back with an update on the injured Viking right after this. Who you got, Tom? I thought for a moment it was Haywood, but I just spotted him up and moving around. So I think I did anyway. On the screen just a moment ago. It was Haywood. I thought it was.
Yeah.
And then I thought I saw two moving around, but yeah, it is Haywood. As suspected. Looks like he's okay.
Haywood second.
Wearing jersey number 2. It was, in fact, Quincy Haywood II, wearing appropriately jersey number 2. Fresh off his second moment in a row for Spartanburg defensively. He was a little slow to get up in the end zone, but he's moving under his own power. All is well for he and the Vikings, and he has set them up after this scoop, Tom, and returned to the 2-yard line in position to make this a 35-7 game in the blink of an eye. And here's the pressure that provided the chance. You said it, Cam Smith was the guy creating that.
Yeah, we talked about those linebackers and got the country club hop there. You never know how it's going to, bounce there. But I mean, nice effort there to Jackson Buckley to chase him down, keep him out of the end zone. I once worked with a guy who was the defensive coordinator, so it doesn't count until they cross the double stripe. So we'll see what happens.
Spartanburg sending the offense on the field in an effort to cross the double stripes. They'll keep it on the ground. So about the 4-yard line is all. And Zeke Bell Bond is handed the football. Flag comes in right at the beginning of this. We'll see what they sort out as Spartanburg inside 2 minutes to play has the ball inside the 5.
This would be big if it's a big one. Torian Mills able to make that play.
Well, you think about this was a 7-7 game. And Spartanburg's offense, having been the headliners, is going to be motion against the Vikings. It'll back it up to the 7-yard line. The first 2 scores coming from the offense. It was his defense, Coach Shaw's Byrnes defense, that evened things up at 7 apiece. But it is the Spartanburg defense having come to life of late. The last 2 scores, though this one will be credited the offense if Spartanburg can capitalize, has witnessed the Spartanburg Viking D as the catalyst for success. Trey Burke. Lynch. And Lynch inside the 5 to the 3-yard line. Lynch, one of the more impressive of the runs tonight, 30+ yards on a touchdown rush earlier. Helped establish things for Spartan High.
He is tough to bring down one-on-one. There was a chance to get him, but his momentum got him 3 or 4 more yards.
And if you missed it earlier, he had a 100-yard night in the first quarter. Hasn't had to do as much of late as the defense has been snatching away the headlines, but already a 100+ yard night for the Spartanburg back, Trenton Lynch. Nice stop here, though.
I'll tell you, Tyler Clark, we mentioned him getting a chance to play tonight, and he has had a solid first half from his linebacker position. The last 2 plays have been really good penetration up front. Now Lynch was able to get 4 or 5 yards on that one play, but trying to keep him out, it's huge. We're at 28 seconds and counting here.
Well, what is this front going to be able to do for the Spartanburg Vikings on 3rd down? Coach Hodge and his staff content to let this run all the way down so that there are points. They belong to the Vikings here. Timeout being called with 13 seconds to play on 3rd down and goal from the 5. All kind of options in the playbook for Spartanburg right here. And you're talking about creating some major separation going into the locker room after the Vikings.
This is big. If it's Byrnes can keep them out of there, Byrnes will get the ball to start the second half. Again, it's been tough. They had 3 plays and a punt. Had the punt the next 2 times, had the interception, and then also had a fumble. Whereas for Spartanburg, had a touchdown pass. They had the interception, touchdown by Lynch on the run. They had an interception for a touchdown as well, and Cambridge Smith also scored.
Well, a reminder while we await this 3rd down play, next Friday night, Bojangles Friday Night Rivals traveling to East Rutherford High, RS Central at East Rutherford. That is a 7:30 kickoff. There's a certain excitement about heading back into the state of North Carolina tomorrow. Of course, a number of the games that were scheduled on the North Carolina portion of our broadcast schedule obviously put to the side as football is so low in importance related to everything that has happened in the region of late. But it is going to be nice to carry Bojangles Friday Night Rivals back across the line once more. Mark it down, 7:30 RS Central at East Rutherford High. That's next Friday night. Rest of the schedule for the season taking shape. We'll pass along what we have as time rolls on for you. Stay close to the WLOS and WMYA websites and all the sports coverage that the station so effectively provides to make sure you don't miss any of the editions of Bojangles Friday Night Rivals. Timeout. Byrnes after they got a look at what Spartanburg was going to do on the 3rd down play from an alignment standpoint.
So it's interesting how that played out, because you wondered if, as Spartanburg stood out there and watched the clock roll down and it was a 3rd down play, and what they would do. I didn't think they were going to kick it. I thought they let it roll down to 13 and to give them an opportunity to run one more play and then have a chance to kick it up through there. But it's pretty interesting to watch them and the strategy that was involved there to get it down to 13 seconds to do so.
And you leave nothing for Byrnes, whatever happens, to try and swing the momentum of this contest. We are 13 ticks away from the Spartanburg Community College halftime report. Our halftime tonight brought to you by Spartanburg Community College. You'll hear from athletes on both sides. You'll learn more about both of these outstanding programs and schools and communities here in Spartanburg County, all a part of the Spartanburg Community College halftime report, as we'll visit with Nelson extensively coming up at halftime. Boy, nice night for Nelson down there tonight. It, as we said, was 76 degrees. at kickoff. Or excuse me, 67 degrees. Flip that one on you at kickoff. Now 64 our temperature as we work toward halftime. Well, after talking things over with his troops, Coach Shaw now looks on as Spartanburg's third down play commences. Back of the end zone. Touchdown catch for the Vikings as Choice is the receiver of choice. A Calvin Choice touchdown to extend the Spartanburg lead.
Well, had time to throw the football and had one underneath about the goal line and the crosser on the back side of it there, and he was wide open. And sometimes that's a tough one to catch. So big guys up front did a good job there, and he comes open and able to make that catch for the touchdown. Impressive performance here in the first half.
Yeah, Spartanburg really taking the reins of this football game in the second quarter, now making it 34-7. You could look in the eyes of the Vikings and tell in many ways this was a team on a mission. That's what Coach Hodge said about his team. Got another player down being tended to right now. That's the one thing that Spartanburg has some concerns about. You know, all hands are not yet on deck for the Spartanburg Vikings, and you've got more injuries that have plagued this team a little bit here and there throughout the night thus far tonight. They want to keep everybody healthy, but he said it. He said, I can see it in the eyes of my players. This is a team that's hungry, that experienced senior group on defense. His offense starting to come into their own. And a Vikings team making a statement in this first quarter as well. Travis Miller now up for Spartanburg, and he appears as if he's going to be all right. So good returns on all the difficulties for the training staff tonight. As he, at least at first glance, it looks no worse for the wear. But Coach Hodge and his staff, they've got to be very pleased with the way this first half has transpired, carrying over. What did he say about last week's game? He said, you know, the first stretch in that game last week, I felt like we could have played with anybody in the country. Talked about wanting them to keep that intensity throughout, but he loved that snapshot of his Vikings capabilities. He's going to love this first half snapshot of the Vikings capabilities as well. They have now built a 35-7 lead over their rival Byrnes. And keep in mind, it's worth going back to and mentioning, when these teams get together, the average score is 20 to 18.6, right?
Right, yeah. I mean,
Spartanburg on this occasion has a 35-7 lead. This is very rare, and it is a major statement for the home team.
Well, and it's a Byrnes Rebels defense, as we told you at the outset throughout the course of the first half, been really good defensively, having given up over 27 points in the last 4 games. But yeah, Coach did tell us that first half against Boiling Springs was about as good as he thinks this team has played, can play. He was a little bit disappointed in maybe the second half, but you get out of there just a really good offensive team with a real good quarterback there and holding them 7 points.
Shall we call this Exhibit B?
There you go.
35-7 is the Spartanburg lead, as they have been just as impressive this go round in front of the home faithful. This is into the end zone. 8 ticks remaining in this first half. All right, summarize the first half for us for fans who maybe are flipping through tonight and found us and say, wait a minute, 35-7 Spartanburg. How do you describe to them what we're seeing?
Well, it started off with that first drive of the game, 76 yards, and big run by Lynch that set things up. The touchdown pass, Trey Burke to Justin Rice, and then the interception by Byrnes, and all of a sudden we're tied at 7, but able to really generate offense in a number of different ways, throwing the football and running the ball. Defense has gotten involved and scored on a 4th down play by Cambridge Smith, the linebacker. He was stripped 1. They were able to take it to the 2, score there. A lot of different avenues of success.
Byrnes keeping it right between the tackles for what should be the final play of this opening half. It is an opening half dominated by the Spartanburg Vikings. At one time, this thing was knotted up at 7 apiece, but 28 unanswered for the home-standing Vikings have Spartanburg in command at the intermission. Well, the ROTC color guard, the Spartan High Band, everybody involved in the pageantry surrounding high school football in Spartanburg County on this night.
All right, let's go.
We're honored to spotlight these exceptional individuals who were chosen for the honor.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Jason. This is the Coach's Corner, brought to you by Carolina Furniture Concepts. Well, Coach, the score is pretty clear. You guys have firmly controlled this ball game. What were your thoughts on the first half?
Yeah, we're playing really hard again. We still got to clean up, though. There's too many few little mistakes, drop balls, missed assignments here and there. But we're playing hard, and that's kind of covering up for some of that. So got to come back second half, clean some of that up, and play a full 48 minutes. So that's our challenge coming in, and so that'll be our challenge now.
All right, Coach, good luck to you and your boys in the second half.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
God bless.
We'll be back in just a second.
For Creighton Middle Elementary, Lakeisha Walker.
Welcome back to Friday Night Rivals here on the Spartanburg Community College Halftime Show. Joining us is the proud president of the aforementioned Spartanburg Community College, Dr. Michael Makota. Dr. Makota, it's good to have you here today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being here at Spartanburg Community College. I'd like to share with you a little bit about what we're doing for the Proud Chasers.
All right. Now, I want to hear more about that in depth, shall we? Let's talk about what truly separates y'all apart from everyone else out there in regards to academic programs and, of course, community engagement.
Well, you know, on the football field, you have to play like a champion to win. In the game of life, you have to play like a chaser to win. You know, our students come here hungry, they're nimble, and they work together. And we remove barriers. We remove barriers from a financial standpoint, but we also have 80 programs of study. We're the fastest growing higher education institution in South Carolina in more than 20 years. And we are setting a movement, a momentum to inspire and educate individuals in ways that are different and new.
Let's expand upon that, though. Why do y'all feel a sense of incumbency in preparing the student body for the ever-evolving job market out there?
Well, the job market is constantly changing, but we prepare our students for day one entry into the workplace, whether they transfer to another higher education institution or whether they're going directly into the workforce. We know that our chasers are prepared and ready to take on those jobs now, and we're also growing those programs for jobs in the future.
So, Dr. Makota, at the end of the day, why does Spartanburg Community College ensure accessibility and affordability to all of the student body?
We are the most affordable and most accessible higher education institution in South Carolina. We have our new Live to Chase scholarships for this year, which is no cost tuition for the entirety of 2024, 2025. So you can come to Spartanburg Community College and not be charged hidden fees or other types of things. We actually make sure our students have access and affordability in ways that other colleges do not. But those pathways are successful because it's the highest return on investment for those students.
I'm loving it. Well, Dr. Makota, once again, on behalf of Friday Night Rivals, I want to thank you and the institution for y'all's proud support of high school athletics.
Thank you so much, and go Chasers.
All right, go Chasers indeed. We'll be back in just a moment, folks.
Friday Night Rivals Scholar Athlete, brought to you by Arby's.
Welcome back to Friday Night Rivals here on the Bojangles pregame show. Well, folks, throughout the course of this FNR season, we're going to feature an array of Arby's Scholar Athlete winners here on this show. These Arby's Scholar Athlete winners are eligible to receive a $5,000 scholarship. This afternoon, we're joined by the Arby's Scholar Athlete winner from Byrnes High School, Deuce Nodine. Deuce, good to have you on the show, my man.
Good to have you.
Yes, sir. Well, Deuce, let's talk. You are a football player, so now I got to ask you the dual question. What position do you play, and what are your thoughts on tonight's game?
I play long snapper and outside linebacker, and I think it's going to be a pretty well evenly matchup.
Okay. How long have you played football?
Since I was 5.
Okay. And you're also a lacrosse player, too. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Share with us some of your accomplishments within the sport of lacrosse.
My freshman year, I had JV MVP, and then last year I was 1 point away from getting All-State, and then I got named Mr. Hustle for lacrosse.
Pretty impressive, my man. And let's shift our focus toward academics for a second. You're sitting on a bad boy 4.2 GPA, is that right?
Yes, sir.
What are some of your post-high school plans?
I want to go into PT and study kinesiology.
Okay. Now, for those who do not know, what is PT?
Physical therapist.
That's what we thought. Now, I gather you are also heavily involved in your community as well, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Share with us some insight into your volunteer efforts.
When Hurricane Helene came through, my neighbor had a tree land on their house, and I helped clean that off. And then Coach Shaw had sent a remind throughout, and a family needed 6 volunteers to help with a funeral, and I volunteered to go and be a pallbearer.
Truly noble work. And very briefly, I gather you have a whole lot of hobbies as well. What are some of those hobbies?
I like to draw and paint, and then I like to play video games as well.
Excellent, my man. Well, once again, you are Arby's Scholar Athlete winner for this week. Congratulations. And good luck tonight on the football field as well.
Thank you.
Arby's, we have the meats. We'll be back in just a moment, folks. Welcome back to Friday Night Rivals here on the Spartanburg Community College Halftime Show. Well, folks, speaking of Spartanburg High, as you can see, and of course here right behind me, you can see the wonderful band here at Spartanburg High, the Vikings, and they are putting on quite a show. Their color guard, the senior members of the band, the works, and they are truly an astonishing group of young students. Let's take a listen in for a couple of seconds, shall we? Folks, as you can see and as you can hear, no great football game is complete without a wonderful band to accompany them. Well, folks, speaking of the football game, a few moments ago we had a chance to check in with the head coach, Mark Hodge of the Spartanburg High Vikings. Let's take a listen to what his thoughts were on the first half of the game, folks. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Jason. This is the Coach's Corner, brought to you by Carolina Furniture Concepts. Well, Coach, the score is pretty clear. You guys are firmly controlled this ball game. What were your thoughts on the first half?
Yeah, we're playing really hard again. We still got to clean up, though. There's few little mistakes, drop balls, missed assignments here and there, but we're playing hard, and that's kind of covering up for some of that. So got to come back second half, clean some of that up, and play a full 48 minutes. So that's our challenge coming in, and so that'll be our challenge now.
All right, Coach. Good luck to you and your boys in the second half.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
God bless you.
We'll be back in just a second.
Well, hello there,
everybody. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to tonight's Friday Night Rivals football game. Joining us today is our good friend all the way from Ingalls Markets, Miss Taylor Newhouse. Taylor, are you loving the game so far?
Absolutely. It's been a fun one to watch.
It has been a fun one to watch. Now, what are you anticipating? An explosive finish, I hope?
We always hope for an explosive finish, but definitely an interesting game.
All right, we got to talk at the end of the game then.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk about high school athletics in general, because from what I understand, Ingalls Markets, y'all have had a long-standing and robust partnership, not just with our organization, but the entire community as a whole. Let's talk about the dynamics of that partnership.
Absolutely. We kind of gravitate towards athletics because we feel like it's a great way to reach our communities. But we're with these kids all the way from that first day of elementary school all the way through college. So we're really following them. But athletics is a good way to bring it all together because everyone loves a Friday night football game.
They do indeed, including you and I. That's
Absolutely.
Right. So it sounds like you guys really do bridge that link between academics and athletics. Am I correct to assume that?
Yes, definitely. We're there to support children through their entire educational experience.
Speaking of supporting children, y'all have people who come into y'all stores and end up working for y'all, people who you go to church with. I mean, this really is a tight-knit community. Is that right?
Absolutely. Ingalls is a beacon in all of our communities, and we love to get people in and out of the store, especially these kids that are working at our stores, our athletes and students in the schools that we support as well.
That's indeed right. Well, Haley, you know what time it is. It's time to get back to some football.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. We'll see you guys next time on Friday Night Rivals. Welcome back to Friday Night Rivals here on the Spartanburg Community College Halftime Show. Well, folks, here at Spartanburg High, they don't just have an exceptional football team, they also have an amazing faculty and staff. Now, how do I know this? Because earlier this afternoon, we had the privilege of sitting down with the 2023 District Teacher of the Year, Mrs. Meredith Burrows. Let's take a listen into that interview from earlier today, folks. Welcome back to Friday Night Rivals here on the Spartanburg Community Halftime Show. Well, folks, here at Spartanburg High School, there are a plethora of fantastic teachers. Sitting to my left right over here is the 2023 District Teacher of the Year. Her name is Mrs. Meredith Burrows. Mrs. Burrows, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Of course. And I got to ask you, what are your thoughts on tonight's game?
Oh, I'm so excited. I think Spartanburg has had a really great streak this far in the region. I think we're going to come home with a win. Senior night, just a really exciting time.
Very ambitious indeed. I like that. Now, speaking of seniors, when it comes to the student body, what all do you teach?
I teach U.S. History and African American Studies here at Spartanburg High School.
Okay, and how long have you been here and what brought you here in the first place?
I've been here for 5 years. This was my first job out of college from the University of South Carolina Upstate.
Congratulations. And very briefly, what is that one lifelong lesson that you love to instill in each and every one of your students, and why?
I love to instill in them just to wake up every morning, make sure that you reset, because every day is not going to be a great day,
Indeed.
But you can make the best out of every day.
Very insightful indeed. We appreciate you taking the time to speak with us here today.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll be back in just a moment, folks.
Well, the last time there was this type of separation between Spartanburg and Byrnes to the Vikings' favor, you got to go back to the Doc Davis era. 42-0 Spartanburg in 95, 38-6 Vikings in 99. We talked about those 90s, right? It's been an impressive performance here in 2024. Safe to say your keys to the game, Tom, A+ for the Vikings. Emotional agility has been there. Physicality has matched.
It has, and a couple of check marks there. We talked about the Rebels. If they have a chance, they need to get touchdowns rather than field goals. They really haven't had much opportunity to get anything, and they haven't limited the big plays. So a couple of checks marked for Spartanburg, and the Rebels have struggled in a couple of categories here this evening.
Spartanburg in command, but we've seen stranger things. Byrnes won the toss, deferred, will have the football to start the second half. We'll break away, come back with more from Doc Davis Field in Spartanburg right after this.
The best Thursday night lights and Friday night rivals highlights from across the country.
Byrnes doesn't like what he sees, takes for himself, now towards the left sideline, still on his feet, still up, Tic-Tac twirls in, and goes over the goal line. Jared Byrnes with his third touchdown of the night as Nashville Christian.
NC State kickoff, and that ball comes loose, and Sanderson recovers. Throws deep. Blair brings it in. Jadon Blair wrestling to the 15.
Oh, Notre Dame fans, you gotta love seeing that one. Jadon Blair.
Ball in the air, and it's intercepted. Oh. Coming down with it is Emilion Johnson, who made the pick and takes it back to the 41-yard line.
Carpenter looks to throw. He will. It's intercepted in the end zone by the Red Devils. And bringing it out. Looking for a big return. Here comes St. Clairsville. Off to the races. All the way back for the score. Gage Wolf.
Now he steps up, wants to go for it all up the right side and pulled down at the 20. Inside the 20 again is Katori Marion.
Well, Spartanburg in command at the intermission, 35-7, and 28 of those points coming after this game was tied at 7 apiece, Tom. This Spartanburg team, and you heard Mark Hodge say he wants a full 48. He sees some things he wants to tighten up along the way, but much of what he did see in this first half has to be pleasing to the Spartanburg head coach. As we look back at some of the key moments for the Vikings, a couple of early drives for Spartanburg that got things jump-started. This was the one moment for Byrnes, however. Emerson James took it back to the house, and that's all the scoring for Byrnes.
Yeah, that was a big one at that time. The freshman goes the distance there. That made it 7-7. Here's Trenton Lynch, and he was good doing this in the first half. It was 35 for the touchdown.
Yeah, he was 100+ in the first quarter alone, but it's a Spartanburg D that grabbed headlines, as they so often do. That was Cameron Jennings. Good defensive plays on the other side as well. Ferguson has made his presence known, but the weapons have been multiple for Spartan.
And that's huge. This play right here was 4th down and 1. Cameron Smith able to get to the linebacker, goes the distance for the touchdown.
Yeah, that was a defender scoring an offensive touchdown on the 4th and 1, and then the defenders get heavily involved. Quincy Haywood takes this one back for a pick 6, and after his pick 6, he scooped one, put Spartanburg on the doorstep for what would ultimately become the final touchdown of the half. Safe to say everything going according to script for the Vikings, and they're enjoying it here at Doc Davis Field in Spartanburg.
Yeah, 3 phases of the game we talked about. And you talked with Will Love and his ability to kick the ball into the end zone, make Byrnes start at the 20-yard line every time. Got the interception return, the fumble recovery, and able to get down to the 2-yard line and able to throw a couple touchdown passes. Played well.
Scores coming in from elsewhere. 6-0 the Dorman lead over Gaffney at the half. Bowling Springs a 28-6 lead over Riverside also at the intermission. How about Tuesday? Hillcrest 38-14 over Greenville. J.L. Mann 31-14 over Greenwood. And those are some consequential games when you look at the top 10 and you look at the teams that are going to split into the Division II side of things, Tom, when the playoffs are around.
Yeah, and in 5A Region 1 with J.L. Mann, Hillcrest, and T.L. Hanna. We saw how good T.L. Hanna was beating J.L. Mann, and then Mann turns around and beats Greenwood. I mean, Greenwood, and you take a look at those 3 teams, Hillcrest, J.L. Mann, Greenwood, all out of 5A Region 1. They are 8, 9, and 10 in 5A, and you throw in Gaffney and Northwestern up there. They're all Division II, and they're 2 and 3.
Yeah, Gaffney is 3rd in the state. Northwestern 2nd in the state in the classification, and you said it, they're all going to go into that Division II portion of the playoffs. A couple of scores coming in from our viewing audience as well. Brevard 21, Hendersonville nothing, with football taking place in Western North Carolina. And East Rutherford leads Polk. We'll be there next week. We told you we'll have Byrnes Central and East Rutherford next week. They lead Polk 38-0 East Rutherford at this point. That a second period score. Some of what's going on elsewhere around this portion of the Carolinas. Opening kickoff of the second half goes out of bounds, and that will be a penalty flag. Means good starting field position for Byrnes. Boy, what a key drive this is going to be for the Rebels. They won the toss, deferred to the second half, so they will have the first crack at trying to change the narrative here, Tom.
Well, they had 54 yards in the first half. That's it. 28 rushing, 14 carries. We can all do the math there. Passing, 5 out of 9, an interception for a touchdown. 26 passing yardage. That's it. Spartanburg 136 on the ground, 73 through the air, 209 total in the first half. And for Byrnes, they in their possessions, punt, interception, touchdown, fumble. On that play. The 5 possessions, tough ones in the first half.
Yeah, time of possession pretty even. In a game like this, that can often be the case. 12:32 Spartanburg, 11 minutes, 28 seconds Byrnes. But not much happening on the offensive side for the Rebels just yet. They hope to change that here. And as was the case at the start of the football game, Zy Landrum is in there at QB for the Rebels. He'll give off on first down. Just about a yard is all. Corey Cheeks, who fills up your screen there, Cohen Foster in the middle, and Cam Jennings have really kept this front in check throughout the night.
They have done an outstanding job and active, as we've talked about, the linebackers, but it starts up front for those guys to provide that opportunity.
Yeah, those active linebackers making headlines too. Cam Smith, the offensive TD, even in the secondary. Guys like Quincy Haywood have made their mark. That may leave a mark. Look at this trio. Nothing but a swarm of Viking jerseys there. The aforementioned Quincy Haywood among them. And he'll be greeted by his teammates. Boy, nice job by C.J. Woodruff there also. Look at the pursuit from the Vikings defense in full.
Yeah, because Landrum's a guy that can get to the outside, can give you a little bit of that, but has been kept in check here tonight.
It's Cam Smith who ultimately made the tackle there with all the Vikings involved. 3rd down 9. Again, swallowed up by those blue home jerseys on the far side after the toss in the direction of Dawkins, and it is just that quickly 4th down for Byrnes.
Well, most of the folks that we talked to around here saying we can see it, and it's been demonstrated the first 3 plays in this half. The speed that you see on defense just had not been able to get to the edge.
This is a short kick. Going to take a Byrnes bounce and a major Rebels bounce. Keeps on rolling down to the 36-yard line, and that was a fortuitous roll for the Rebels. Now, all kind of activity happening back in the kicking area, and it looks like the Byrnes punter is down at around the 23. Determine if there is a flag out anywhere. So much attention initially on the landing of the football and the great hop that he was able to get. But boy, you see that helmet go hard to the turf here. And he's going to call out the training staff for Byrnes as John Cummings is down after the senior kicked this away. We will break away while they tend to the Byrnes kicker. Hope to come back with great news for you on the other side. Yeah, the way his helmet. All right, back in Spartanburg, and a momentary stoppage for an injury, but able to get up and work off under his own power, which has been something we've been able to report throughout the night tonight. Was John Cummings, the senior kicker for Byrnes. You and I both checked. There were no flags, even though there was contact there. And Spartanburg is going to take over after the tremendous roll on the backside of that punt. Vikings are going to have it at the 36-yard line after the kick. Well, now you're going to have an unsportsmanlike conduct on Byrnes once it's all over with that will move Spartanburg up to midfield. In fact, they'll be on the Byrnes side of the 50 at the 49-yard line. So Byrnes may be wanting to see something on the punt, and in an effort to improve their standing, flag for an unsportsmanlike. That gives Spartanburg even better field position. 48-yard line. Just about a yard on this, that's all. By the way, some of the numbers we've been able to pass along to you tonight. Big thank you to Jim Lamb, who has continued to run numbers for us here at Spartanburg High School tonight. And, you know, you look at some of the information we've been able to gather, and both the Byrnes folks providing us with great info, Spartanburg doing the same, but a shout out to some of the youngest of those making their mark on the sports information world here in the upstate of South Carolina. Tom, Todd White and his Economics in Sport class. They put together a media package every week here at Spartan High. You can catch it either online with a QR code left here in the press box, or there are hard copies available for you if you need them. And congratulations to those students for the good work they're doing. Todd White and his crew on the economics in sport class doing a nice job of providing the info here at Spartanburg.
Yeah, I mean, Todd White, All-American golfer at Furman, and on the senior tour, talking to him before the game. I guess they're going to have a little Ryder Cup situation, and
that's going to be a lot of fun.
He's one of those guys as well, and I mean, that is fantastic information from those youngsters.
Yeah, it's been quite the tour in here. Third down for Spartanburg, and flushed out is the QB Burke. Makes the connection on the far side, but this is going to be a loss of yardage, and a fourth down and long is coming. Yeah, we had Todd White through here walking us through some of that. You know, it's been a night where a number of dignitaries have been in here. Our friend and broadcast partner on the basketball side of things in the spring, Coach Doug Lau, who the floor is named after here at Spartanburg High School. The new gymnasium bears his name. He was in here in the pregame, had a chance to visit with one of our good friends, Coach Doug Lau. And always good to see Coach and think back to some of what he has meant to Spartanburg High School and this area. And, you know, you think about the faces down through time on both the Spartanburg and Byrnes side. A lot of outstanding individuals in all athletic pursuits for these two programs that have made their mark. Always good to see them when we're in this part of the state. That's going to bounce out inside the 10. Boy, what a kick here. 3-yard line is where field position is going to start. You credit both of our kickers in recent moments. Thomas standing in there, playing the field position battle right now.
I tell you, really good job defensively there for Byrnes. That's the first time tonight Will Love's had the punt. We've talked about its ability to kick the ball into the end zone, but also that's one that was able to die down on the 3-yard line. And that's the first time I had the punt. There was one interception for the touchdown by Richard James. Other than that, touchdowns and an interception that it went to the distance for Spartanburg, and fumble recovery on a short drive for TD as well.
From the end zone, Landrum, he rushes out of there across the 5 to the 7. Well, two more names we got to mention. We look to the left, we look to the right. We got the voice of the Vikings on one side.
Radio
we got
guys.
the voice of the Byrnes Rebels on the other. Always great to see the radio crews everywhere we travel across the Carolinas. So both to Ryan Clary, voice of the Spartanburg Vikings, who comes in, gives us great info, and Cole Bryson, voice of the Byrnes Rebels, who has done the same tonight. Always good to see our friends in the media at each of these locations when these contests play out. Up near the 19-yard line on this carry. Boy, does Byrnes need to get something going here, Tom. They turn and hand the football to Jacoby Fuller on this occasion for a positive gain.
I tell you, that's one of the first times tonight that it's been like more than about 5 yards or so. We had a 20-yard run in the first half by the quarterback at that time, Kane Rogers, but it has been hard going. We talked about 28 yards rushing in the first half on 14 carries. That's a good gain that time.
In the interior, but too many Spartanburg Vikings there. Very minimal gain on the first down play, as they give it off in the interior once more. Just getting Nate Felicano involved. Number of different players going to get their number called here. Clark, the senior. Remember, we've seen Clark at the quarterback position at times in this contest as well, along with Landrum and Rogers, who have shared time. He's going to be given off near side. Finally ran out is Talik Dawkins. Third down, and they're going to call it about 8. The Spartanburg defense, another chance to get off the field here. How impressive has Spartanburg defense been to you?
Well, they've allowed Byrnes to punt it 3 times first half, interception, fumble recovery, and a punt here in the third. So they have not been able to generate a whole lot of offense. We talked about only 54 yards in the first half.
First half total 54. Or the rushing or passing. This will pad those numbers a bit. How about this? Wide open Jackson Buckley, or actually coming into a window in which he was open, a better description, and threading the needle to deliver this one on target was Zy Landrum, known for his wheels. But this is a nice job of tossing it over there.
That's a great job. I mean, under pressure, rolling left, kind of sidearmed it out of there as he got hit. Good job, and a good conversion there.
Moves the chains on third down and keeps this Spartanburg defense on the field. Forward with it is Fuller. He's up to the 37, 38-yard line.
Hey, that's a heck of a tackle by Corey Cheeks right there. Got by him to begin with, and then he helped run him down from behind. Did not give up on that play. Turned out to be just a small gain.
Couple of yards makes it second down and about 8. Landrum met and turned aside. Big 5'4" in there. That is Jordan Hill Atkins who gets in there to make the stop for Spartan High.
Yeah, guy right there in the middle able to make the play and getting a chance. We see Cheeks there as well. And guys up front had a good night. Cameron Jennings, the other defensive end, has been in on a number of plays as well. 5'11", 217 senior.
Third down play, setting his feet, firing one on downfield, but that is batted around. It'll fall harmlessly to the turf, incomplete. And fourth down, 11 is on the horizon.
Tell you, nice play by Quez Smith, outside linebacker who had the coverage there on Dowell down the sideline there. And again, you talk about the speed that the linebackers have and their ability to come up and make the play in the open field. And that's always a key as well, but also the ability to go back and defend the pass.
Spartanburg had to burn a timeout they did not want to use right there. You could tell from the body language of the coaching staff that the Vikings will take one at 5:25 to go. Third quarter, just ahead of the Byrnes punt. Well, with so much on the line tonight, they are smiling in the land of the Vikings. Here's a glance at our nth degree orthodontics smile cam. And Spartanburg leads it 35-7 in the middle stages of this third quarter. We thank our friends at Nth Degree Orthodontics, sponsors of tonight's Smile Cam. Tom, they're smiling because this was a night that Spartanburg needed in order to put themselves in position to play for the region championship in a couple of weeks. Now, there's work to be done between here and there, but if all goes according to plan for he and his staff, and you see how intent they are on everything going to their standard. They play against the standard set in their own minds, hearts, and lives, and you can see it on moments like this, even though it's 35-7 on the scoreboard, still trying to make sure everything's clicking on all cylinders. But they're all smiles here tonight because if this holds for the remainder of this third quarter and deep into this night in Spartanburg County, Vikings are one step closer to a big showdown on November 8th, which would be on our air over at Gaffney for the region title. It really is an important step in that direction tonight.
Well, it is, and they've got Riverside next week, and at Riverside took Gaffney 28-21, and then you got the ball game with Gaffney, and that can set the tone there for maybe a deciding game for the region championship.
Well, a reminder on each field goal kick tonight, the Ingles Field Goal Challenge will be in effect. The Ingles Field Goal Challenge, Ingles making sure they continue to support the boys and girls clubs. $100 to the boys and girls clubs on each field goal this season. Good luck to all the athletes and teams playing tonight from Ingles Markets, where your savings say something. Right over the left side and up across the 30 to the 33-yard line as Spartanburg tries to put this one in a mode of keeping that lead intact. A player down at the 30. Slow to get up, and now to his feet is Justice Hopkins, one of the defensive ends on the Byrnes side of things. You know, you think about that field goal challenge a moment ago, what a luxury it is. You talk about Spartanburg's defense. They just got the ball back for this offense, which is coming into its own. You've talked about what a tremendous weapon Love is at the kicking position for Spartanburg. He's got field goals of 51, 49, a couple of 43-yarders this year. Had 3 of those in a contest in which he also made a 23-yarder and a game winner in a win over South Point earlier this season. So, you know, this offense is under the microscope right now to some degree. They're getting the scrutiny, Tom. But with the way the defense and the special teams play with those numbers to back it up, Spartanburg going to be a dangerous team moving forward.
And they're getting better as the season goes on. You mentioned they win 26-25 at South Point. They're number 3 and 4.
Able to get the job done against them on that night. You saw this early. A return to form for Trenton Lynch. You know, he had 100 yards in the first quarter. For folks who were not with us, had a touchdown run that was a thing of beauty. And here's another sizable mark left by Trenton Lynch.
And watch this, Octavius Davis. If he didn't make that tackle, then he's going to go to the distance for the touchdown.
Here's Justin Rice, who had the first touchdown catch of the night for the Vikings, and he'll move Spartanburg a little closer to midfield. About a 4-yard connection between Burke and Rice here. You have to love the way Trenton Lynch moves through traffic. And then just when they establish the running game like this, you got all those weapons in the passing game. Work going to be done here on the ground. Trenton Lynch seeing those numbers climb higher as on cue the Spartanburg back will extend the advantage. They've now scored up over his jersey number with Trenton Lynch and his latest touchdown run. Up over 50 yards on this carry for Trenton Lynch.
Okay, one big hole there, O-line, good cut there. And I tell you, once he gets to the open field, tough to catch as well. So he's a very good combination of speed and power with cutting ability. I mean, it's hard to bring him down without him getting some positive yards. And if he gets behind you, look out.
The way he has performed tonight. Has been impressive. Love, perfect on extra points. And Spartanburg.
Yeah. You know what it is.
Once again on the wheels of Trenton Lynch. He's pulling away, as are the Vikings. Tonight's fans of the game in this third period brought to you by Stewart Law Firm, proud sponsors of our fans of the game. Fans sticking around, and the youngest of Vikings, the future of Vikings on display.
You think she's listening to us?
No, probably the radio guys.
Hopefully we won't put her to sleep.
Probably the radio guys.
Yeah.
Hometown guys. Certainly the option of choice for so many around the Carolinas, where you think about what they've meant over the years and these programs have meant, and these fans sticking with it. You know, a lot of homecoming festivities and whatnot around the state tonight. You saw so many of those that were prominently displayed on the posters as the fans enjoy what has been a Spartanburg statement. First half, to say the least, and now building it to 42-7. This beautiful night in the upstate. Well, this is going to go all the way out of the back of the end zone for a touchback.
Think he might end up somewhere at the collegiate level?
I think he'll be playing on Saturdays in the future with the strength of that leg. The Spartanburg people were clear. They believe they have the best kicker in the state. Hard to argue with him when you see what he's able to provide, Tom.
And it's Major League. We talked about it. You know, and Coach Hodges, we visited with him, and he says they spend, not that other teams don't, but they spend a lot of time on special teams and how important it is to the overall success. And he was talking about the physicality of all three phases. Sometimes you don't think about that from that standpoint, but offense, defense, kick.
His team having kept the foot on the accelerator tonight in all three phases, leading at 42-7. It's Byrnes with a pass swung out in the direction of Jackson Buckley far side. There on the scene, Quincy Haywood, who's had a great night, has a pick six and a scoop of a fumble that he carried back to the doorstep. To his credit already tonight, he's on the scene again.
And again, we go back to open field tackling. I mean, that's a textbook tackle right there, because we know Buckley, he's got some ability out there. If you don't make that play, it's going to be maybe a 10-yard gain. But he did, and it's only a 1-yard pickup.
Well, this is a Byrnes team. Losses to Hannah, to Greer, On down the line it goes as you get a moment from Zy Landrum here. It kind of gives you a snapshot of what he can do with the legs. Goes out across the 35 to the 36. That'll move the chains. This Zy Landrum run. Byrnes hoped for more of this tonight than what they have seen, but Zy Landrum can get them jump started. You want to build on this moving forward. This is a team that they still have work to do. Bowling Springs on November 1st. Of course, we'll have that November 8th week as a bye week, as you referenced earlier in the game. They played against Dorman earlier in the week before the anticipated weather came through. Didn't end up having that game washed out. That will be made up around the state on November 8th. But just going to say, obviously a setback by 3 points at Hannah. They lost to Greer 18-10. They ended up losing an overtime contest against Gaffney back on the 11th, but scored 28 at Eastside, 52 at Wade Hampton, handled Dorman 14-3 in that contest. And this is a team that has shown moments of brilliance, but tonight it's been so tough to get the offense rolling. Just now beginning to see some things happen as Zy Landrum again scampers for a first down. Tom, Spartanburg has made it few and far between these type of moments for Byrnes.
Yeah, it's been real tough for Byrnes here offensively tonight, and only 4 returning starters. They had an outstanding team a year ago. They were 10-2 1 year ago. They won the particular region realignment this year, and then they ran into a pretty good Hillcrest team and got knocked off in the second round.
Running into a solid Spartanburg Vikings team here tonight, down 42-7. First down, though, up near midfield, and continued pursuit. Somehow able to keep on his feet and get rid of it. But he's going to be out of bounds. Boy, just
he called a really good job to not go down there.
Quest Smith was all over him. Somehow able to keep the play alive, though it's out of bounds. 2nd and 10 coming. All the pageantry very much a part of this night at Spartan High. And, this is the type of night Spartanburg wanting to avoid a letdown after, you said, beginning to get things rolling the last couple of weeks. And because Byrnes, with that loss to Gaffney earlier, would see this one perhaps not go their way, you're starting to begin to see a clearer picture for Region 2 5A moving forward. Looks like we have a player down and around midfield on the far side. And both teams going to huddle up as the training staff just in front of that Byrnes bench is tending to the injured player.
Well, the other thing, Jason, about Spartanburg, and one of the best halves they've ever had last week against a really good Boiling Springs team led by an excellent quarterback and was very good offensively and had a 27-0 lead, which Hodge in the second half was not happy with maybe the approach, certain things that went on, and he wanted to see if they could do that again to continue to play. Well, not that they didn't play hard, but you had that lead, and he wants them to finish it off, and we'll see what transpires here tonight.
A full 48, I believe, was the terminology that we heard him use from his team. Is that, as well as continuing to reel off wins in succession, which is what you have to do in the playoffs. The 2-point of emphasis for Mark Hodge. So far, so good on this night. 3rd down, looked like Fuller was up under his own power, which is a good sign. Under pressure this time is Landrum. He just kind of turns loose of the football here. I believe they're going to rule this incomplete, and in doing so, 4th down is coming.
Get under duress, almost immediately, and there's really nothing that Landrum can do. Good job to just fling it forward.
Saw Christian Davis on your screen as a number of the role players on this Spartanburg defense have their say as well. 4th down coming from the Spartanburg 45. Few and far between have been the Byrnes opportunities on the Spartanburg side of the 50 in this game. And ahead of the 4th down play, timeout is on the field with 2:46 left to go in the 3rd quarter. I'll restate it for fans who may be not as familiar with this rivalry. You got to go back to 95 and 99. The last time there was this kind of separation between these two teams, Tom. 42-7, a commanding Spartanburg lead on this night. With everything going well for the Vikings, we'll check in with Nelson, who has tonight's check presentation.
Hey, thanks everybody. I'm standing here on the sideline with some of the gorgeous cheerleaders and of course some of the handsome cheerleaders as well, all the way from Spartanburg High. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of my 40 and Friday Night Rivals, thank y'all so much for hosting us here for y'all senior night. We proudly present you a check for $500.
Senior night festivities being enjoyed by so many here at Spartan High, and we say thank you to Staley, all those who make it possible for us to be here regularly. Certainly Mark Hodge, who has welcomed us into his fine facility. You know, we talk about Doc Davis a lot tonight in referencing those 90s teams. He's a Doc Davis protege, playing like those 90s teams tonight, this Spartanburg team. And on fourth down, they will snuff out anything further from Byrnes, as the Vikings are set to take over on downs at midfield.
And Lantern just spinning out of there, and I think he got hung up with one of his offensive linemen, got tripped and fell to the turf there.
One of the few times it becomes tag football. Quez Smith comes in, puts a hand on him, and that completes the play as Landrum and company turn it over on downs. You know, Tom, reference before we threw down to Nelson there, 95 the score was 42-0. 99 the score was 38-6. You got to go all the way back to before the turn of the century, and those two contests, the last time Spartanburg enjoyed this kind of lead against Byrnes. Granted, there's still 2 minutes plus remaining in this contest, but you don't see this a lot. Deep shot for Spartanburg, in and out of the hands of his intended target on the far side. Vikings trying to get it in the grasp of Choice once more, who already has a touchdown tonight, but it's incomplete, and we've got a Byrnes player down once more. Looked like he was grabbing thigh area there after going to the turf following the coverage here, and that was 4 on 4. And Corey Morrison, the senior DB, being tended to.
Yeah, he did a good job back there to break that one up. Choice of a young man that they like as well. They had a lot of options out on the perimeter, and with the ability that Lynch gives you inside, pretty dangerous. Push there. He was in good position back there to break up that pass play. We've seen a number of folks go down, not a couple of linemen for Spartanburg, a player or two on the Byrnes side. Thankfully, all of them have gotten up and been able to get to the sideline.
Yeah, you certainly hope that trend continues.
You know, we talked about the importance too, Jason, as far as region championship, and even though you have Gaffney, who's in Division II this year, it's going to help him off there, and hopefully he'll be okay. And then Spartanburg in Division I,
well, let's
opportunity to get a bye.
Let's step back for just a moment and explain to everybody what we're talking about. Division I, Division II. The playoffs since the 5A classification came to South Carolina have not been split the way they used to be with a Division I, Division II based upon enrollment. This year that returns to South Carolina football. So based upon the enrollment of your school, if you're playoff eligible, the teams with the higher enrollments are going to be split into Division I. The teams with lesser enrollments are going to be split into a Division II bracket. So you'll play for 2 separate championship opportunities at the end of the day, 1 week later in the middle of the December here in the Palmetto State. And Spartanburg, Byrnes, and the like, Bowling Springs, who you've talked about, those schools based upon their enrollment will be Division I playoff teams. You know what Dutch Fork and some of those Midlands have meant of late. They'll be chasing that group in pursuit of a championship. Northwestern, 2 in the state. Gaffney, 3 in the state. Those teams you talked about in Greenville County, they will split to Division II for the postseason. So even though Spartanburg and Gaffney will play in a couple of weeks, if this trend continues for the region title, they'll both be fighting for byes in their respective sides of the playoffs. That's the way it all shakes out there. So you're right, Tom. It makes what happens the next few weeks all the more critical. A little bit extra at the end of this. As fourth down is coming, take one more look.
And Jackson Delaney gets in there and does a nice job. There's some contact there with an offensive lineman.
Now Spartanburg set to kick it away. As they do, though, that understanding of what's going to be Division I and what's going to be Division II set the stage for us.
Well, and then if you get a first-round bye, that becomes huge as well. You've got to win 5 to win the state championship, and so that's what you're buying for as well in parts of the state.
A little bit of trouble on the return, and it appears as if, well, they're going to have to unfurl the pile just to be sure Byrnes has it. It appears as if the Rebels have held onto the football. This is always dangerous. Reached out, but it looks like it popped right back up into the grasp of the return man. Well, and that lets us remind you as we do come closer to the final minute of this third quarter that our next 2 weeks are confirmed on Bojangles Friday Night Rivals. Hope to have you with us next Friday night. East Rutherford as RS Central visits. We journey back into North Carolina. What a thrilling moment that's going to be, as football has returned in some portions of Western North Carolina. And in the following week, you'll see the Spartanburg Vikings again as they travel to Gaffney to take on the Indians on what is looking like, as everything trends that direction here at the end of the third quarter, it's going to be for Region 2 5A supremacy, as so often that rivalry has been over the years. This in and out of the hands of Jackson Buckley, who was covered up by that Spartanburg secondary. Still playing hard, that Spartanburg D, and that is Adrian Miller on the scene for the Vikings this time around. Swallowed up and just able to get it out of there somehow on the second down play. It's going to fall incomplete with 51 seconds to go. Well, here's where things can begin to get a little testy with the score out of hand, and it's the last thing you want to see. The official's going to try to take control of things here as flags fly at the end of the play.
Once again, Landrum didn't have much time at all to throw. He did an excellent job just to get rid of it. We've seen him do it a couple of times tonight, but boy, he has been under duress, and really can't have much of an opportunity to look downfield. And he gets taken down there hard. This guy's defending him there. Everybody jumping in there.
Well, they sort this out ahead of the 3rd down and 10. So often be the case. Plays to that conversation of controlling the emotions you talked about in our keys to the game at the start of tonight's broadcast. Yes, that's as much about erasing what just happened and embracing the positive things that do on the field, but it lends itself as much to your composure in scenarios like these when there's still a quarter plus to play and an unusual separation between these two. The penalty once again is going to be against Byrnes. When we had the unsportsmanlike earlier, it was against the Rebels. Here's another going to be walked off against the Rebels, and that will back Byrnes up inside the 15-yard line. Tom, one more wrinkle to that game in a couple of weeks at Gaffney, as if you need more wrinkles when Spartanburg and Gaffney get together, as they have on our air the last several years, right? National Game of the Week the last couple of years, those two got together on Sinclair and Stadium, and it's going to be back to its usual spot as the final regular season game of the year, interestingly enough, due to the changes as the Spartanburg D continues to provide pressure. Cam Smith swallows up the QB. Here comes 4th down. One more wrinkle to that. Dan Jones is finishing his time at Gaffney. He's coming up on the end of his storied career, winning as coach as he hung around long enough as a Gaffney guy through and through to do that. Mark Hodge and company going to have one more crack at him because, as you talked about a moment ago, they cannot meet in the playoffs, being on opposite brackets now. So that's going to be one more crack, as Mark Hodge mentioned when we were talking to him about that game when it was originally on our schedule a few weeks ago. A little more to that game already marked by engaging storylines. On this night, it has been Spartanburg. 11 seconds remaining in the third quarter, and the Vikings since the score was 7-7 earlier, have been just tremendously dominant, Tom.
Yeah, they've been outstanding offensively. They've been able to run the football, they've been able to throw it, and then they turned it over a time or two with an interception for a touchdown, a fumble recovery, and they've run it in, thrown it in, and they have been dominant in all three phases of the game.
Have the football back here with a chance to create further separation as they start this drive on the Byrnes side of things. Vikings keep it on the ground. Should be the final play of the third quarter. Spartanburg broke that 7-7 tie in the early stages of this one, and 35 unanswered, and put the Vikings on solid footing through 3 quarters of action in Spartanburg. Well, Coach Hodge coaching his team up. They lead at 42-7 as we enter the fourth quarter. It has been a complete effort for his Vikings tonight, trying to reel off a third in a row, work themselves into playoff form. One of the reasons this team's been successful tonight, the solid work of Trenton Lynch. Tom, 14 carries, 186 yards, a pair of touchdowns. He's not just a candidate. He's the winner of our Henson's Mulch and More Dirty Jersey of the game designation.
He set the tone early with about a 50-yard run or so, and eventually you see that one there taken for the touchdown. He had more than 100 yards rushing in the first quarter play or plus or so, and he's getting in about 200.
We thank our friends at Henson's Mulch and More, proud sponsors of the Dirty Jersey of the game, and a lot to be taken care of in these parts as you head into fall. And check them out at Henson's Mulch and More, and certainly been helpful around the Carolinas with so many needing assistance on so many levels. Congratulations to Trenton Lynch, and work perhaps still to do, though. A big smile tells you his work may be done for the night. One more time, 14 carries, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, 53. The long carry of the night also belongs to Trenton Lynch. We had an 80-yard interception return for touchdown. Quincy Haywood on the Byrnes side of things. That is still, for fans who weren't with us, the only scoring tonight for the Rebels of Byrnes. And it came when the game, as a result of that pick six, was tied at 7 apiece. It's been all Spartanburg since.
Yeah, first half punt, interception, fumble recovery, and then 3 punts and failed to convert on a 4th down. That's what the offensive possession for Byrnes have been tonight.
Vikings have it again here. 3rd down coming for Spartanburg. Going to stay on the ground and just a couple of yards maybe. So 4th down for the Vikings after this carry. If you're wondering about it, through 3 periods, 42 offensive plays, 294 yards for Spartan High, 44 plays, 106 yards for the Byrnes Rebels, and the defense for Spartanburg has been as solid as the offense. The special teams true, and here comes the Ingalls field goal challenge for none other than the kicker Spartan High fans deem as the best in the state. This is going to be a 49-yard try. But before Will Love can put a foot into it, they're going to back him up 5 more. Well, again, for those of you who weren't with us when we talked about it, the strength of this kicker a quarter or so ago, he has hit from 51, 49, and twice from 43 this year. He also had the game winner, a 23-yarder against South Point for Spartan High. And this one is going to be right at 55 yards, so it would be the kick to eclipse all of those we documented as he works at it from just below the Vikings logo, and he's got the leg, and he has put it through the uprights. A 55-yard field goal for the latest of the Loves to kick for the Spartanburg Vikings. How about the leg of the junior kicker, number 96, Will Love? Makes it 45-7, and a reminder, that does put in effect the Ingles field goal challenge. Every field goal this season, Ingles Markets donating $100 to the Boys and Girls Club. And on the strength of Will Love's leg, that donation is made from our friends at Ingles. Tom, with a leg like that, with a weapon like this in special teams, Spartanburg making note tonight and sending a strong message to the rest of the state on our air. This group of Vikings is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
They played well tonight, and as Coach said, trying to get that third consecutive win. They're going to get it here tonight. And, you know, we've seen around college football, and we've seen around the National Football League that kickers are getting better and better and better. But very rarely do you see a high school team and or player hit a 55-yard field goal. And, you know, it wasn't like it just dropped over the bar either. So well done there. And because we've done a lot of high school games over the years when, you know, we asked coaches, what's the distance? They go, well, maybe 35.
35 and in, yeah.
Here we know.
Right. 54 yards, Tom.
54.
54 is what officially they're going with here, as he was just shy of the 45-yard line when he put a foot into it. So the field goals this year for Will Love, 54, 51, 49, twice from 43. Those are simply the field goals of 40 yards or more off the leg of Will Love this season. And he's still got enough in that leg to continually put it in the end zone throughout the night. Now this is going to be just short of it. That'll be out of bounds. And Byrnes will start after they walk off the infraction for the kick out of bounds. But that's understood and understandable after you've just punched one through for 54 yards. And the Ingles field goal challenge. The Ingles field goal challenge of the year on our air, to say the least.
So I'm not sure we had many this year, have we?
Very few field goals that have been connected on, none of the distance you just saw from Will Love.
One other note about Byrnes, and we talked with Coach Shaw in the pregame about this, and you know, his team, they're on the road every single week. They're renovating Nixon Field there. We know what an advantage and what a great atmosphere it is there for Byrnes Rebels and their fans. So it's been a tough one from that standpoint.
And it has been a tough one tonight from this standpoint. Met immediately, and another Spartanburg Vikings sack. Quez Smith in there one more time, the senior linebacker. And Tom, I'm going to echo your words from earlier tonight. This linebacking core, yes, you give a lot of attention to Jennings and Cohen Foster and Cheeks up front and that three-man front for Spartanburg. But what Smith, Quez Smith, Cam Smith, who also, by the way, has scored a touchdown tonight on the offensive side, Peyton Jones and C.J. Woodruff are able to provide, leading that linebacking core to the charge. Nothing short of impressive for Spartan High. Deep look for Byrnes. Nice adjustment by the wide receiver, and he'll turn it into 6. That was all wide out on the adjustment to get to the football, and the Byrnes Rebels have their first offensive touchdown of the night as Byrnes is able to call upon Harris. Take a look at this. Coming back to the football, and the yards after catch just as true for Harris and the Byrnes TD.
Yeah, that's great concentration. Elijah Roseberg was there, and then he was able to concentrate, make that catch, and spin away and take it the distance for touchdown.
What a reception on the Byrnes side of things. As the Rebels are on the board since the first time, for the first time since, all the way back in the early stages of this game, and for the first time offensively tonight. The Harris receiving TD now alongside the pick 6 from Emerson James early, and Byrnes has put 14 on the board with this memorable catch, and the yards after. Well, the Byrnes Rebels fans who've stuck around tonight, something to cheer about as an offensive TD for the Rebels tightens the gap just a bit with under 10 minutes to play in the contest. Byrnes with quite a connection there. 14 points on the board for a Byrnes team, again, Tom, that still has much to play for here in 2024 on so many levels.
3-1 coming in. That lone loss was overtime to Gaffney, 15-9. By the way, Gaffney took a 7-6 lead on Dorman in the fourth. Dorman come back. They lead 9-7 in the fourth quarter to play at Gaffney.
Remember, that was a 6-0 Dorman lead at the intermission. That one taking place at Gaffney tonight. Spartanburg still to go there in a game that, depending upon what happens in the Dorman game here, would be in the week that follows. Both teams have games next week, so the picture not completely clear, but it's shaping up like that Spartanburg-Gaffney game on our air in a couple of weeks could determine the region. Football left in this one. It sounds like a lot of football left in the reservation tonight in Cherokee County. Here's a return up to the 30-yard line. For folks who may be finding us as other games come to a close, or perhaps other responsibilities on this Friday night are behind them, how do you put into words what we've seen from Spartanburg High School through 3 quarters plus now?
Well, they came out and played one of the best games they played in a long time against Boiling Springs, particularly the first half, to lead 27-0. They came out and took control of this ball game early as well and led it 35-7 at intermission.
Extended that lead to 45-7 before the Byrnes touchdown a moment ago. Rebels getting a push in there as Spartanburg utilizes Logan, the sophomore. Valuable snaps for Logan at the quarterback position, going in behind what we have seen throughout the night from Trey Burke. Going to roll out far side here. Find a seam in between the defenders for Byrnes. You don't want to talk about it a lot, Tom, but this is a moment where you never know what injuries are going to do, what personnel decisions may need to be made. So there's a lot of this fourth quarter left, and it's going to mean valuable experience for some of these young players, like you're seeing on your screen right now.
Yep, you've got to get your baptism under fire, so to speak. You got to play under the lights on a Friday night, and you never know down the line you may be able to contribute.
Continuing to keep it on the ground. The other benefit of this is out of bounds up near the 40-yard line. Spartanburg ball carrier. It's going to be 4th down and a couple for the Vikings here. Clock stops with 8:27 to play.
Yeah, very seldom you see number 29 as a quarterback, but young man getting his opportunity to play here tonight. And, you know, you like to see that the backups for both teams or any team get a chance to get in there. You know, they work hard all during the course of the week throughout the season, and it's great to have a chance to get into the ball game.
And a number of players out wide on this side is Kevion Ferguson, a junior, up inside again. Brian Keenum, your name here in Spartanburg. And as we said, Logan getting a chance to secure some snaps at the quarterback position. Question for Spartanburg, really, as you move forward here following a false start penalty to back them up. The health of the offensive line, they got a number of key playmakers they still don't have back just yet, but their ability to perform in the trenches on the offensive line, if they can get healthy there and get the full unit together and having all hands on deck and wise decision making at the quarterback position from Trey Burke, the starter. This would become a Spartanburg team clicking on all cylinders and dangerous in all facets.
Well, the one thing, too, when you look at Spartanburg coming in, 142.3 rush, 4.8 per carry. They run it 61% of the time, but also 149.6 pass. I mean, very balanced in that regard. And coming in 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 2 more tonight with 1 INT. So an averaging 28.5 points per ball game. So they've been balanced offensively and defensively. Not a one-dimensional team by any means.
No, this team as strong as you're going to see defensively, as strong as you're going to see special teams-wise. And with the offense doing the type of things they've done tonight, look out. There is another flag. We're pushing towards some high numbers in that department as well tonight. We close in on the final 8:26 between these two rivals. Vikings look to be trending on toward latest win in a series. They own the advantage all time, 32-26, with a couple of ties. Number 33 appears on the horizon in the 61st meeting between these two teams. Vikings to kick it away here, though. Good pressure from Byrnes, though they will not get there. And how about this roll inside the 25? It's blown dead at the 24-yard line. 3 playoff meetings won by Byrnes. Overall series led by Spartanburg. You know, Byrnes won the last meeting 21-9 a season ago, back on September 29th. So this is the Spartanburg answer to that most recent meeting. And this is Spartanburg's statement to the rest of the state.
Well, the last 7 games, see Coach Shaw there, a 4-3 advantage for Byrnes, and Coach Hodge is 2-2 against Byrnes in his first 4 years here. And you know, you talked at the outset about the rivalries. There's a bunch of them. We're talking about Spartanburg and Byrnes, Spartanburg and Gaffney, Spartanburg and Dorman. A little bit different, but these two teams, powerhouses in the 90s and the 2000s.
Yeah, and the Byrnes team that has a rivalry with Gaffney. Remember, this is a Byrnes team that played a Gaffney team that remains undefeated, pending upon what happens with Dorman tonight. They played them to overtime earlier in the year. So this certainly, when you think about the rivalries and you factor in all that means to Region 2, lots still to be determined along the way here. Flags becoming a rite of passage on nearly every play. Another being sorted out by our officials here. It's going to be Byrnes football at inside the 20 at the 19-yard line. Yeah, the nature of those rivalries catch your attention. You know what Spartanburg and Dorman is, those who've been around this part of the state. It's been the battle for the county for so long. Deep shot, picked off right on that Viking logo. Reeled in one more time by the Spartanburg defense. And Brooks Vaughn, a junior DB, has his moment to remember in this rivalry.
Yeah, that's nice. Nice interception there. Played that ball well. Threw it into double coverage. Well, gave your guy a chance to make the play. And in this case, the D, he'll make the play over the football.
Brooks Vaughn with the latest takeaway for the Spartanburg defense. Dorman and Spartanburg, the rivalry of the two schools down through history in Spartanburg County. The Spartanburg-Gaffney rivalry, that's a cross-county lines battle that you'll become even more familiar with in a couple of weeks on our air if you're not already. And then this one, the power team of the 90s against the power team of the early 2000s. The emergence of the Byrne Rebels on the football side of things. Maybe Spartanburg and Byrnes. Maybe the newest of those rivalries to be bitterly contested. But when you had the two standards of football across a 20-year period going head-to-head at the peak of one and the peak of another, and you're throwing in names like Steve Davis on one side and Marcus Lattimore on the other, and on down the line it goes, you could go on and on. This rivalry has its place in South Carolina history, certainly in Spartanburg County history, the dominant counties in the state historically. It belongs to Spartanburg tonight. And the Vikings lead grows further. He saw the tape there and finished strong in carrying it home. A touchdown run for Spartanburg. And Chris Sutton, the senior running back, we called his name early with a handful of carries. This one is the one he'll remember on this night, as he has a roughly 30-yard run for a Spartanburg TD.
Yeah, once he got into that secondary, nobody was going to catch him there, and I mean, Spartanburg just turned around and handed the ball off here and able to go the distance for the touchdown.
Well, you know, Tom, this may be the win in recent history of this rivalry between these two. You know, we talked about 42-0 and 38-6. Vikings up 51-14 with the extra point coming. Night where Mark Hodge said it is about trying to put that third consecutive week together because it's a snapshot of what you're going to have to do in the postseason. His troops having answered the bell with gusto.
Yeah, once he got into that secondary, he was gone. Everybody kind of bunched up inside there, and he was able to break the tackle and looked a little bit like Trenton Lynch there.
Pretty good recovery there, but because of the difficulty on the snap, this one is going to be blocked by Byrnes, and it is a rare miss on the extra point for Spartanburg. It'll hold steady at 51 as the lead for the Vikings at 51-14. Well, passing touchdowns, the latest of the rushing touchdowns you just witnessed there from Sutton, as you get one more look at 28 on the loose. There have been defensive touchdowns tonight. Spartanburg true in all facets. And yeah, he knows a little bit about the rushing side of things as a runner. As the track star. Lunge for the tape at the end of that.
Well, and you're getting a lot of the backups in there. We talked about the quarterback and running back, but you saw on your screen there a couple of offensive linemen, and it's an opportunity for them to get some experience. You never know when your number might be called, and it's awfully nice to have a chance to get into it when your team is up by the margin that they are, and, putting it together at the right time. Coach talking about really didn't think they played all that well in that first game against Dorman, 23-7 coming back from the break, but against Bowling Springs and then here tonight. So building some momentum as they go down the stretch.
Well, and eyes set on the second weekend in December for these Vikings, right? Everything pushed back a week in terms of the South Carolina playoffs. And, these are teams that Byrnes is this way, Spartanburg is this way. The teams in this area, Dorman, Gaffney, we saw T.L. Hanna last week. It's about the pursuit of a championship. It's not just about, can they have a moment against a rival? Can they win the region? It's about bringing home another trophy for these well-established trophy cases around the upstate. The usual suspects you're going to have to tangle with in terms of Dutch Fork and what they've been. And Spartanburg got an up-close and personal glance at the Foxes yet again here in 2024. You want to be playing your best football down the stretch when it matters most. And this is a Spartanburg team trending in that direction.
Yeah, third game back since the extended break there because of the hurricane, and trying to get into a little bit of a rhythm. And talked about Dutch Fork, and Dutch Fork beating T.L. Hanna 31-28 in the second round last year. Beat Man 31-30 in overtime. And Dutch Fork has knocked out T.L. Hanna a couple of times, Dorman a pair of times, Bowling Springs one time back in 2017, and Gaffney got him in 2021 at 22-19.
Loading up and firing deep downfield. That was nearly another impressive catch at around the 30-yard line by a guy who already has one in this fourth period. Harris was right there again. Landrum loaded up, tried to find him just beyond the Viking logo, but good coverage. Turned that aside.
Throwing that ball deep, I tell you, pretty good touch on the ball there. It's been into double coverage a couple of times there.
Spartanburg had Christian Davis there on the scene. Reason nothing further happened. Yeah, you talk about the Gaffney win over Dutch Fork disrupted the run that the Foxes were on, but everybody else for the most part having been handled in recent memory. And the big question always surrounding Dutch Fork, knowing the gauntlet that was Region 2 in this part of the state, was the statement that was often made, and here's a big lick coming up. So many of these contributors getting to be a part of things now, and Brooks Vaughn, the junior DB, right place, right time to deliver the hit.
A really good job by Landrum to get away, but form tackle there. And Vaughn, who had a nice play just a few plays ago, makes a nice tackle.
With another, here comes third down. And the question that those in this part of the state were asking for the longest time is, we get another flag here, what would happen if Dutch Fork had to go through the upper state playoff run? Well, we got to see that in recent memory, and Dutch Fork handled that piece of business with very little trouble. They ended up working their way on toward a continued run to the state championship. So what Spartanburg was in the 90s, what Byrnes had been in the early 2000s, that's the kind of dynasty that Dutch Fork Silver Foxes team has put together of late, Tom. And it's on the mind of the players in both of these programs and in programs all around the upstate to try to disrupt that.
Yeah, they were, a year ago for Dutch Fork. At one point, they were 2-3 on the year, and they ended up, I think, 10-5, and they won the last 8 games, right?
Dynasty was over, right?
Yes.
2 wins. Things weren't looking good. And Dutch Fork comes all the way back, handed that an old team that had been their rival across the course of the season a return of the favor, and the loss that ended up securing them the latest of their 5A championships. Again, the playoffs in South Carolina, for those of you who weren't with us when we discussed it earlier, are going to be a little bit different this year. Not only is everything going to be pushed back a week due to the extension of the season, playoffs will start a week later, they'll end a week later, the second weekend in December. But also they'll be split Division I, Division II based upon enrollment. And just to cut to the chase without going into too deep an explanation for you again, don't think he's playing tonight. Don't think he's playing tonight. He's wearing the stripes and is going to enjoy a moment with that Spartanburg Vikings defense as this comes right at our official. And
well, you know, if he had numbers on, but he didn't write the numbers.
Yeah, he was at the ready. And this pass, of course, incomplete, 3rd down coming.
And then you saw in the back part of that, the flag go down. So.
Ends up keeping good humor with those surrounding him on the Spartanburg side of things. Let's see what the flag is they're going to sort out here. Not flag for throwing at a comrade there by one of the other officials. This is going to be something beyond that, if you're wondering. And it appears as if they're going to walk it off against Byrnes. Personal foul against the Rebels again. There's the fun moment as he does share a few words with Adrian Miller of the Spartanburg D. He said, you know, if I wasn't part of the playing surface and had to bat that down, I probably could have caught that.
Yes.
Right at him. 3rd down and long coming. You got to enjoy these moments. Spartanburg nearly enjoyed another as jumping the route was Christian Davis once more, though this is incomplete. And we've got a guy down. Another of those linemen. This is the 2nd time tonight. It looks like they're going to have to tend to the Byrnes lineman McCullough. Will break away, check on him on the other side. Well, what a night for Spartan High. Home fans have enjoyed 50 plus for the Vikings in this one as they lead their rivals, the Byrnes Rebels, in a rare rout in this rivalry. Trending the Spartanburg direction. Injured player is up. McCullough being helped off to the far side. Certainly hope he is going to be all right. The lineman for Byrnes that was the reason for the injury timeout. And we're talking about postseason aspirations for these two and how it is going to work itself out in terms of Division I, Division II. Not to go into the whole explanation again, but to pay off what we promised. The teams that will be in the one side, the Division I side, will be Spartanburg, Byrnes, Bowling Springs, the like.
Dorman,
absolutely. Wade Hampton. On the other side, the Division II side is going to be your Gaffneys, your Northwesterns, your TL Hannas, those the prominent programs, as well as those we've talked about in the rankings, in the top 10 in the rankings. You got Hillcrest, Man, Greenwood. It's going to be interesting to see how things shake out. both in the Division I and the Division II playoffs. We do have a score to pass along to you. Tom's been keeping an eye on what's going on around the state. A final now, we're told. Dorman 9, Gaffney 7. So that's the first loss for the Indians.
Yeah, how about
they
that?
become 3-1 in the region. You know, Spartanburg trying to set up, and there's a week between here and there, but trying to set up that showdown in a couple of weeks for the region title. Things getting all the more interesting tonight with a huge win for the Crosstown Cavaliers.
Yeah, that is a big win. I mean, and this is at Gaffney. Gaffney 6-0 coming in. 3 of them had been in overtime. The double overtime win was over this Byrnes team, 15-9 in region played. So Spartanburg go to 4-0. Gaffney 3-1 now. Byrnes now 3-2. Dorman goes to 3-2 as well right now.
Gaffney still holding the tiebreaker over Byrnes. If everything holds next week, it would still be Gaffney and Spartanburg to try to figure it out based on the tiebreaker that would be up for grabs between those two. So doesn't affect for now what, because of Byrnes' 2 losses, as you documented there, Tom, what would be that winner-take-all contest in a couple of weeks, still there for the taking.
Oh, yeah.
If all goes well next week for both clubs. But certainly the first blemish this season, the 2-point loss for the Indians. Still on the move. Boy, he's looked good at times coming in at the quarterback position as Logan.
Yeah, sophomore, 5'11", 146. Pretty good moves right there to get a good game.
He's been able to play the majority of the fourth quarter because of the separation Spartanburg created. How about this toss? And ultimately out of bounds after plenty of good work for Dylan Harris, a junior wide receiver on the Spartanburg side of things.
Okay, the first one was a big collision between 2 Byrnes guys. Oh, hope the young man didn't get hurt, and then a solid hit out of bounds there as well.
Tried to make sure Harris was out. We get the flag down at the 33-yard line. It's going to be against the Vikings. Our officiating crew tonight. I'm sure everything according to the rule book.
Busy
for these young men. A lot of the role players in on both sides. 5:28 to play in our fourth. Game that Spartanburg took a commanding lead in the first half and has tried to salt away for some time. Well, a reminder, talk a little bit about what's ahead here in terms of the region battle you're witnessing tonight. And we got some extracurricular activity beginning to take place on the far side, right at the hashes that our officials are having to sort out. Kind of a formula for it to some degree, Tom. The more we see penalty after penalty and extension after extension of a game that has this kind of separation, there's more chances for things to bubble over, and our officials are going to get together and talk about this. Well, it does give us a chance to tell you, and this is where we were going with it, our next Friday night contest takes us back into North Carolina, as we will be at East Rutherford for the contest against RS Central. Make plans to join us next week on Bojangles Friday Night Rivals. While that was going on the far side hash, we've got a player being tended to by the training staff on the near side hash mark, just above that Palmetto moon. So you got the training staff doing the good work of trying to tend to the injured Viking. It would appear, well, they're hard to see from our angle. If that, is that a Spartanburg player? Maybe a Byrnes Rebel that's down there. And then they are taking names and making notes, the officiating crew on the far side. We'll attempt to sort it all out on the other side of the break. Well, as you can see, the last thing you want to see, a moment of concern here, as this injury is the more substantial one of the night. Everybody taking a knee, and everybody's thoughts right now with the injured Byrnes Rebel. We will take a break and hopefully come back with some good news for you here in just a bit.
This is unreal. Like there's 10 minutes to go, and it took 20 minutes to do 5 records.
Well, regardless of what team colors you wear, everyone in Spartanburg County and around the upstate one family right now, as all thoughts are with an injured Byrnes Rebels player being lifted onto a stretcher. Again, we hope to have very positive news to pass along to you at some point in the future. Prayers having been shared both by the Spartanburg Vikings side and certainly the Byrnes family, all gathered up around their teammate and their brother, as everybody's minds, thoughts, and hearts with the injured Byrnes Rebel right now being tended to by the training staff. We'll break away, come back with more information as we can pass it along, as both teams having taken a knee, and again, everybody one family in a moment like this, as all hearts and all thoughts and all prayers with an injured Byrnes Rebel being tended to here at Spartanburg High School tonight. Well, you could see an injured Byrnes Rebel being carted off the field. We did see some hand motions and some hand movement, which is always a great sign, Tom. And both teams taking a moment in prayer. Each team individually on a knee a bit earlier. They came together a moment ago. And certainly, I go back to it, Tom, in a moment like this, nobody has sides that they're on, and the colors you wear are irrelevant because everybody becomes one family. And the football family and the upstate family right now, minds, thoughts, hearts with the injured Byrnes Rebel.
Yeah, emotional moment here at the Spartanburg Stadium. Young man getting injured, and take great work by those that are here in that particular capacity to do what they needed to do to make sure that he is under the best of care right now, and will get hopefully get taken care of and can recover.
We'll be in search of a positive report for you. If we have it, we would then pass some details along. But in respect for all involved, just send to you our desire that you, along with all on our crew and certainly everybody here at Spartanburg High School tonight, will lift a prayer for those involved here. Teammates now begin to gather back up. Certainly their mind and their thoughts with their teammate, with their brother. These guys go in the trenches together week in and week out. They're in school together day in and day out. They spend a lifetime together preparing for moments like these. And certainly there's a little extra underneath those silver caps right now as part of them just was rolled off this field as well.
Well, as close as these two schools are,
yes,
they know one another in most cases, and you could see some camaraderie and everybody coming together. You see Coach Hodge there, and
now you're reminded both of these coaches so intentional about instilling into their young men reminders of what really matters beyond football itself, but what it means to be the type of friend and the type of teammate that you need to be for a lifetime, the type of citizen that you are to be for a lifetime, community member you are to be for a lifetime. And these are the moments where those lessons come home maybe more so than ever, and the leadership of gentlemen like these, the coaches here for these two respective programs, is on display in ways that transcend a game like football.
Absolutely, it puts it in perspective. And tough, hard-fought ball game tonight. You see Coach Hodge, Coach Shaw there, and some administrators are probably discussing what they want to do here late in the ball game.
Well, this, of course, the game secondary to what has taken place on the football field. A 51-14 contest that Spartanburg leads with 5:15 to play. If you just happen to be working your way across us when this happened. And right now, certainly everybody's minds focused on an injured player for the Byrnes Rebels. Looks like the Byrnes defensive unit has made its way back out onto the field, and the Spartanburg offense coming out as well. Again, to reset the game situation for you. 5:15 remaining in the fourth quarter.
Jesus Christ, run.
And Spartanburg leading Byrnes 51-14. We will search for as much positive information as we can find, and if we have something before we're off air tonight, we'll certainly pass that along. But our prayers go up, and our thoughts are extended to the Byrnes family, both these programs, and the families of and community involved here in so many ways. You know, we came on the air tonight, Tom, talking about how with everything that has happened in this region, in Western North Carolina and in the upstate in recent weeks, that you're reminded that it's about more than the sport. It's about these communities and coming together. And certainly the case when you have an injury like we saw in this football game tonight. These communities have shown us in recent days more than ever how strong, how resilient, and how tight they are in taking care of one another. And Spartanburg County, an opportunity to do that once again here on a night like this. Spartanburg's offense on a first down from just outside the 10-yard line to work here. So many of the key role players coming in and getting valuable moments on the football field, and the Vikings will hand it off to Hill, and the junior running back will carry it home for a Spartanburg touchdown as the lead grows for the Vikings.
Yeah, just once play resumed, just turn around, handed it off, and he's able to take it the distance for the touchdown. Zymil Hill, 5'10", 189 junior, and they'd taken the 40 seconds on the clock and took it all the way down to about seven or 6 or so before they even snapped the football to run it down a little bit. Got the touchdown.
Yeah, Hill a touchdown rush tonight. Obviously, Lynch has been effective on the ground tonight. A near 200-yard night for Trenton Lynch on the ground for Spartanburg. Touchdown passes to Rice and Choice and Burke, who was in the game earlier, doing a nice job connecting with everybody from Bell Boyd to Hodge to Rice and Choice and Spartanburg. If you weren't with us for the earlier football portion here, an absolute complete effort tonight, offensively, defensively, special teams, as the scoreboard bears out with the clock now a running clock, as you might expect in this situation.
Well, played well against Boiling Springs last week, and certainly well here tonight, and the right time of the year to be able to do that, because you get one more look at it, takes it up inside, and able to take it into the end zone here for a touchdown. And the clock continues to move now, 58-14 ball game.
Spartanburg set to kick it away one more time. You know, we talked about a lot of the off-the-field stuff and the preparation for these coaches, for these young men. And you think about how football in many ways is used by these coaches as a preparation for life, and they talk so much about overcoming adversity and difficulty, and yes, it is a continuation of the growth that you want to see in these young men in this stage and this phase of their lives, and never more so than what the circumstances in the Carolinas have held across the last several weeks, and certainly what the circumstances of this game have held in the last several moments. For by example, these coaches, who I know you and I both have a tremendous amount of respect for on so many levels, these coaches around the upstate, to rally their young men one more time and have those teachable moments as we come down the home stretch in this one.
Yeah, we're fortunate to be able to have contact with North Carolina and South Carolina, the high school coaches, and I tell you, they put in an incredible amount of time. And as you mentioned, not necessarily on the football part, but to establish everything else about behavior, how you treat people, and how you represent your community. And I mean, bottom line is you want to win the football game, but they're developing these young men for life, and you know, as they grow up. And this is an age, a very impressionable age, and I think a lot of kudos to all of the coaches, on the boys girls side as well, what they do. You want to win the game, and that's what you're based off of, with how you develop some young men and women as well.
They welcome them into their own homes and turn them in many ways, as we said, into families. It becomes a community. You know, you're in the summer lifting programs and the practices, and the 7-on-7s, and then you work your way into battling it out with your opponents on a given Friday night. The way they welcome them into their home, make them a part of their own families. It's truly are, in many ways, at the high school level, toiling away for the love of the game and the love of the young men, the heroes of the gridiron on so many levels. Final seconds ticking off here in Spartanburg, South Carolina on this night. The Spartan High Vikings posting 58 points on the scoreboard. They allowed Byrnes the pick six early in the contest. They gave up a Byrnes score offensively in the fourth quarter. That was all. A smothering defense for Mark Hodge and company, and a tremendous performance in all three phases results in a Spartanburg victory, a resounding Vikings victory on this night. An impressive performance for Mark Hodge and his Vikings. They do roll this to 3 in a row and give you a window into what a team with championship mindset and championship pursuit would need to do moving forward. We'll come back and work our way through the final of this one. 58-14, the Spartanburg win on the football field. Well, this was a 7-7 game early. Spartanburg scored on its opening drive. The Byrnes defense answered with a pick six to make it 7 apiece. That's when the Vikings went to work, and Spartanburg with one of its more impressive wins of the year against a rival they haven't had this kind of separation against since the 90s, since the Doc Davis days. But a guy who grew up under that tutelage and is 5 years into his tenure here at Spartan High, Mark Hodge, has put together one of the more impressive wins of the year by his club.
Yeah, dominating performance, took the first possession of the game, and Trenton Lynch got to set the tone at about a 60-yard gain to set things up with the touchdown pass to Justin Rice from Trey Burke, and then the interception by the freshman Emerson James, and that came to 6:25 in the first and tied it at 7, but then able to finish it off in the first half and take that intermission, lead at intermission 35-7. It did it with the interception for return, had a fumble recovery, and able to take it down to the 2-yard line and eventually get it get it in. They had a 4th down and 1 situation. Cameron Smith, the linebacker, able to take it to the distance for a touchdown. They did it in all phases of the game, and you get into the second half, and you get a 54-yard field goal from Will Love. He kicked it in the end zone about each and every time. So Spartanburg, after the win over Dorman, and then after the win last week over a really good Bowling Springs team against a Byrnes team that had taken gap, needed 2 overtimes. They have a very fine performance here tonight.
You mentioned Cameron Smith, that 4th and 1 that ended up being a 27-yard touchdown run. One of the highlights of the night for this defense. On the offensive side of the football, there were others. Great night defensively for Quincy Haywood. He had the pick 6 for Spartan High, and he also had the scoop that put them on the doorstep for another score, but no one